the others not count.
So is he not full time?
No.
I thought he was a community corrector, but he's been getting paid this way the whole year. Guess I didn't know that. All right. So that being said,
He switched, I don't know when he switched.
I will move that we approve the payroll as presented.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. First up at 8:30, we have the highway supervisor report. Mr. Burke, the meeting was not the same last time without you.
That doesn't mean you have to do double time this time.
Yes, it does.
Some say it was better, some say it was good.
Thank you very much.
I didn't get much word for that.
I didn't have time to.
Yeah, thank you.
Is your back better?
Yeah.
Your back better, huh?
Back's better.
Before we get into your scheduled items, we did have a solid waste meeting this morning, and we did talk about clear glass. And Carla and the board, and I guess that's just something we wanted to remind you that we're interested in trying to find a solution, an outlet of some kind. And did the mayor say, I mean, they've got
They've got an outlet for clear glass, and, you know, he kind of indicated that work with us, if that is helpful in any way.
and on the other end of it, they have a grant that they're hoping to get, or they're implementing so that they can start doing their color glass.
Color glass.
Okay.
I think the grant would provide for them a container. Is that, did you get it? Maybe?
Yes, that's
The
all
grant-
right.
The grant would provide them a container for the color glass,
Okay.
and, I don't know any more details than that, but
Okay.
yeah.
Should I get in touch with him and talk about that?
Sure.
That'd be great.
Find out whether there's anything there.
Other than that, it was a good meeting this morning, and their Saturday pickups, their once a month is going well. I think that's really it.
All right, first item up, solid waste line item transfer. Due to a longer than planned substitution of our sanitation driver by highway staff, we'll need to transfer another $4,000 from our dumpster sites line item, solid waste to highway reimbursement.
So the dumpster sites line item, is that for income that we had from those sites, or is it just a yearly stipend that's put in the budget for that?
We put it in the budget for improvement to dumpster sites, or plowing snow for the sites, gravel for the sites, or reconditioning boxes, that type of thing. Mostly for maintenance.
And then what is the reimbursement line item?
It pays highway department staff for running the trucks.
We've got a highway department personnel doing solid waste work, but getting paid through the highway.
Right.
We need to transfer the money from solid waste to highway so he can get paid.
Yeah, basically it reimburses highway for that person's
How much
wages.
do it, you wanna see it? It just says $4,000
Do I need
from,
to sign it?
No.
Okay, I'm good.
I don't have an issue with it.
No, I don't need it.
I'll move that we approve the transfer of funds from the solid waste dumpster sites line item to the solid waste highway reimbursement line item in the amount of $4,000.
I'll say it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Is that about all you need to know? That's all. Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, next one up is a bond release from Travelers Casualty. This is a bond replacement for Covia Clay, insured by Endurance Assurance Company, which will replace the Travelers Casualty bond put in place by Uniment Corporation. They're a clay mining operation with a location in Huntingburg. With the understanding that Covia Clay LLC, a successor in interest to Uniman Corporation, has secured bond number EACX 4020514 in the amount of $365,400, which was issued by Endurance Assurance Company as a replacement bond for the bond in Du Bois County, acting by and through the Board of Commissioners of Du Bois County, hereby discharge and release the bond of Travelers Insurance Company and Surety of America, its parents, affiliates, and subsidiaries of Travelers from any and all past, present, and future liability under said bond, which simply states that Endurance Assurance Corporation is the new bondholder instead of Travelers. This bond covers County Road 450 West, which is in Madison Township, south of Division. It's the old Kelly Armstrong farm back on the west side of the road. North of where I think Courthouse have a hog farm back in there.
450, where's 450?
450 West is it's in Madison Township, south of Division. Let's see.
Is 400 the one that takes you over to the new subdivisions?
Yes.
Yeah,
So 450 is,
it's a half
Yeah,
mile.
450 is that next intersection down, goes back toward Kaisha's,
Right.
back in there.
Mhm.
Red Kaisha back.
Yeah, it covers that. I think the mine is back on the old Armstrong property, and then you go south on 450, you come back east on 100,
Okay,
down to 350 in front of our solid waste
right.
place, go back east on Old Huntingburg Road, and then it takes you back to the north, and then you go east again on 100 at Bob Ware,
Right.
and go on out to the highway. That's the route that it bonds.
Oh, okay, that's the route that they were taking, but they were mining where?
It's at the old Armstrong property,
I don't know where that is.
where, I think Kevin Schnauz lives back there.
Okay.
It's probably,
Is that on the east side of the road, east side of
it's on
450?
on the west
On
side.
the west side of 450. Nick Rickman lives back there
Yes.
now.
Yes.
I believe so, yeah, about a half, 3/4 miles south of Division on the west side.
so really, you're just saying we're switching from one bond to another bond. That's all
Just a
we're
different
doing.
bondholder.
And with the new bond in hand, or does it say we will get them contemporaneously?
We've got it in hand now. Did I give you 2 copies to
Yes.
sign?
I have
Okay.
Commissioner Roberts at both.
Yes.
All right, I'll go ahead and I'll make the motion that we sign the Travelers Casualty Bond release as it's been presented to us.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Did I say that?
You didn't, but I assumed that you meant it.
I was thinking about the wording of your motion, and you got all that in there, I guess.
Yeah, we're signing the bond release.
Yeah.
Okay, third item, annual material bids. We've sent out notice to material bidders for the upcoming annual material bids. Bid opening will take place at the November 15th Commissioner meeting at 10 a.m., where all bids will be reviewed and taken under advisement. Bid awards will take place during the December 6th Commissioner meeting. And then, I believe we've got those times secured, don't we, Sadie?
Yes.
Uh,
Hopefully things will fill in because the agenda's kind of empty in the middle.
huh,
I said, hopefully things will fill in, the agenda's a little bit empty in the middle.
okay. Then the last one, Malcon Consulting, they're on to do a presentation this morning. Charles Malinowski was in our office last week to talk about what they do is they file for a refund of certain excise tax that we've paid on qualified pieces of equipment. They're gonna come in and give a presentation to you this morning on how they can help the highway department actually help the county get reimbursed for some of that excise tax, like on sanitation trucks, dump trucks, different pieces of equipment where not 100% of the fuel that you're paying for is detrimental to the roadways. Like if we're, if you run on a PTO or idling, different things like that, there's a certain percentage that they have that you can get a credit off of. And they can take this information, send it in into the Fed and get us a refund of some money back. I think their fee is 50%. They get 50% of what they recover up to an annual amount of $1,500, and anything after that is, we get 100% of. So he'll be in later on this morning to talk about that, but it sounds like a pretty good idea to start here and go forward. And I think they can go back and pick up a lot of what happened, in a year or 2 years past, I think. So,
And it's an item that we wouldn't have a time or wherewithal to do. Our organization wouldn't have the wherewithal or the time to do it ourselves. We don't do anything about it. Right now, we're getting 0% of anything, so 50%. Yeah. Sounds reasonable to at least consider.
Okay. And that's all I got.
I don't think I have anything for you.
Good. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, first thing on my agenda, paving change orders. I've got two of them. One for Cal Paving in County Road 600 West and one for Ackerman Road in Northwest Suburban Subdivision. 600 West is a net decrease of $573.18. And then Ackerman and Northwest Suburban is a net decrease of $2,015.56. The contractor and myself and Steve have both reviewed it and approved it, so I just need your guys' formal approvals to go from there. There are 2 copies of each.
I did get a comment from a resident in Ackerman subdivision out there that she's very pleased with the work that has been done.
Good.
She talks to me every once in a while about the condition of her roads out there. I think she called me. I think I talked to you, Steve, maybe she called me, I think on 2 days or maybe a day before you were showing up to pay, or not you, the company contractor was going to show up to pay. And I said, yeah, it's coming. So then a few days later, she said, it's great.
It turned out good. It did turn out.
All right. So we have in front of us 2 of these changes. Would you like to review them before we?
Do I need to sign it? No.
Yeah, we'll have to sign it. Okay, so I'll go ahead and I'll make the motion that we approve the 2 change orders for the paving projects.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
You may have to remind me the second vote. Nick's always the one that seconds.
So the next thing on here is the NDOT Title 6 and 88 compliance. I have been in talk with the new compliance officer. I think it's more to do with our online stuff and what we have posted. So I'm trying to get with him, but I have been in communication with him. He's giving me a list of things to go through. We're leaving for asset management conference tomorrow and Wednesday, so it won't be started until Thursday. But that's my goal whenever I get back, is to get started on that.
There are 2 signatures on each.
And Sandy, you need
Okay,
And
so
he told me to make sure I get that done.
They don't always hand it to me.
I know it's on me. I should look at it before I get it. I just take it with the own folder when I go. Last thing in here is the courthouse, the War Memorial Monument, the wall around that. If we're gonna, the city of Jasper want to do the revitalization, we really need to look at that wall. It's cracking, falling apart. It's just really deteriorating in place. The fence on top of it is part of the historical registry with the monument. So I've talked to somebody with the local historical society. He stated that if the fence went back as is, we pulled the fence off, built the wall, put the fence back down, nobody's gonna be worried about it. Because it's very simple. Now, if we try to alter the fence, something like that, that's a different story. But going back as is in the place, that's good. We're good.
Can I back you up just a second here? The wall around the monument, what wall? Are you talking about the yellow base that's on the road or what?
No, it goes all the way around the wall. That's underneath that fence.
Yes, the yellow base is.
Yeah.
Okay, so the exterior
Yeah.
part of it.
The monument itself will not be messed with. The yard of the monument will be messed with. Mine is trying to escalate to build the wall, the new curve, whatever you want to call it. But that thing's cracked up, falling apart, deteriorating. With us and the city of Jasper is not going to mess with that because it's the historical part of it. If the architect were to redesign it, they want to file permits. If we kind of do it in-house, we take care of it and get it done. So, so I have a couple questions that really need to be due. Are you guys good with doing that? Pick the old fence up, rebuild the wall, or put the old fence back on.
Yes, if the old fence is the old fence in a condition that we can salvage?
I think it is. Don't
It needs to be sandblasted and painted while
Yeah.
it's off.
Yeah, I mean, we can refurbish it a little bit, get it looking pretty again. But from my personal, I don't like the fence with all pointy on the top. I think it's a matter of time, of course, when it falls on, it happens, but since it is part of the historical, part of the monument, it has to go back.
Well, I guess that was my question. If the fence were not in good enough condition to salvage, what would our option be?
We'd have to file with the historical society and find out how to get that removed from the monument.
Or you better place a way to reinforce it.
I'm afraid we might bite off more we can chew if we want to try to replace that fence. Our best bet is just to take it up, clean it up, put it back.
I guess I had noticed that it was deteriorated. The only thing I really remember is the part that's right on the road, because we replaced that.
If you go around the whole back side, it's all
Still,
around.
And so it's just bolted in to the
I think it's
concrete.
great. Yeah. The fence itself, I think is salvageable. I think we sandblast paint it. I think it'd be just fine.
I like the fence myself.
I don't mind the fence. I just think the top is what just drives me nuts. Because during Strassenfest, things like that, there's some people inebriated walking around. Can't be bothered.
They started admiring the monument, you never know.
File the points down a little bit.
Put little rubber balls in the
There you go.
Okay, so I'm okay with proceeding. How is it getting paid for?
That's the very next question on the list.
Oh, there we go. There it is. Who will pay for the replacement?
What account's going to come out of? How do you guys want to proceed with that?
And does this go hand in hand with, I think Scott has
Mine's about the 4 stones in the monument.
right. So yeah, I mean, there's other work to be done on the monument, but he's working on the monument itself.
Because
Do you have money to pay for your part?
I think I do, yeah.
Scott and I talked about it before, but I hadn't brought this up to him yet. I was
Can
going
you
to
borrow
talk
some money from Scott?
I don't think I got that.
So,
I mean, is this something that you believe needs to be done immediately? Is it
Well-
something that we can budget for next year to do in 23?
well, no, I don't think it's going to, because
Gotta get it done before the
it's
city.
before the city does the courthouse square renovation, we really need to have that done. Because I don't want to come in here after they get started with their construction and try to build this wall while they're working. Or, God forbid, when it's done, we come in and do that because we're gonna tear stuff up. We're better off getting our part done, and then the city can do whatever they need to do around the outside.
I'll just take your word for it.
It needs to be done.
I don't know what
It's pushing out, you're gonna lose the whole,
Yeah, it is.
it's all pushing out.
I'm afraid when they do construction around it, they start excavating, put the new streets and everything else around, they may have a problem with the wall right then and there.
So would it be your idea to take our part down, let them put the new road down, and we go on top of it, or you want us to be completely
We're
done?
gonna
and
build
work
our
around
wall,
us?
because when we build a wall, you have to build a footer below the frost line to keep the thing from raising lower. With all that excavation that we're gonna be doing, to build that wall, we want that done before they come back through with their curbs and everything else around the outside in the road.
And to dig down and put up footers, if we did it after they did their project, we'd have to tear up their street to some degree out front
Yeah, exactly.
in order to do that. Whereas for them to fix their street, they don't have to tear up our footers and wall.
Correct.
So if you were a contractor doing it all, you would do that first.
Yep.
Before you went.
Yep.
Do the street.
Regarding funding, I guess I have two suggestions. The first being contact Nicole at the Community Foundation, because she had called me a while back, maybe 2.5 months ago, about there being some money for doing things with the historical monuments. We talked about the monument and the book and stuff. So she may have nothing, or she may have something in the works with with something with that. So you could do there. Second of all, I would say, maybe I don't want to get out of my lane, and you can talk to the council. We would approve the work being done, and then we have to see if the council would approve, because if I tell you, please take it out of X.
Well, I didn't know we had money appropriated already somewhere,
I don't
else you
believe
guys that have money available. I can,
I mean, if Scott doesn't have it in his building budget, then we don't have it elsewhere.
I don't think so. Not that I know.
So, okay, so that part, what I will do is I will call Community Foundation, see what they have available, if they have anything available. Then I will go to the council, talk to them. Ultimately, this probably won't happen until next year, because by the time we lay all this stuff out, it's probably gonna happen until next year, which is fine. I think we have time for that, but we do need to get it started. Then last thing is, who will do the replacement? Do we want our county forces, ultimately our bridge crew to do it, or do we want to try to have a contractor? Now, our bridge crew is good, they're really good. Finish work around a public space, I don't know if we want them to do that. They can, I think they can do it. But do we ultimately, they don't have the forms for this type of work. They're coming, but they're not here yet. I don't know when they're gonna be here. So ultimately, it's up to you guys. We want to try to have our guys tackle it. I'll give Brad the plans. I think we can get it done. But we're gonna have a contractor come in and do it.
It's not a intricate, detailed thing, is it? I mean, it's gonna be curves, right?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be a wall roughly 2 foot tall. So by the time you get down below ground and everything, it'll be 2 foot tall roughly. I think Brad can do it. I mean, do you think you can, or?
Yeah, nothing else, I think we'd have to probably drop the walls.
Yeah, probably get these two. So,
I prefer to use county workers if we can, then you can have better oversight, 100% oversight, but if it doesn't work, I don't wanna put people in a position of doing work that they can't do.
yeah. I think,
Yeah, if they have time to do it.
I think we can make time for them to do
In other words,
this.
it's only a cost savings if they're not busy.
Right. I mean, we've got a couple boxes for them to build. We've got some, right now, they're currently, our pressure washing bridge decks and resealing bridge decks, which is important this time of year, trying to get all these things resealed before we start putting salt down for snow events and stuff like that. But I think, if we're waiting until next winter to do this type of work, or next, next year in the winter,
Early spring.
yes, I think we could probably work it in. It's not impossible, let's put it that way. I think they can do it. I got confidence in these guys, but I just didn't know how you guys felt about it, so.
Yeah, no, I'm good with them doing it if they have time to do it.
Okay.
Not cheating somewhere else.
Right.
Just to get it in the record, I think we can make a motion to support the project pending approval of the county council.
For funding, yes,
You agree?
yes.
Okay, so I'll make that motion that we approve the Courthouse War Memorial Monument repairs as it's been presented to us today, pending funding approval from the county council.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
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 And it's like,
Motion carries.
I want to stress that the wall or the fence will come up and go right down. We're not gonna alter the fence. We're gonna keep the historical, but we have to get that up to get that wall.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we could have really, if that wall does fall, it could tear that fence up, so.
And Scott, do we have the gate?
I think they need to make one.
Do you know where that, where they
I
gate?
talked to Luke, where,
Yeah.
about taking up once and fixing some of it, and patched or painting it and making a gate. He said that'd be no problem to make a gate.
And that doesn't change anything.
It's just a little.
I'd say if you can add that to the project, it would be good.
Yeah, that would have to be, I mean, we'll get the fence off and then you'd have to take over Luke and kind of get worked on. That would make it happen.
So it's, how long's it been gone? It's
Whoever
been,
paints it, I mean, yeah, probably, or Sam.
We don't want, yeah, our sandblaster's not really meant for
No, I mean-
pieces and stuff, but whoever we decide to do it,
Luke or K or.
our sandblaster we tear that thing out. We got a big one, but
I've never seen a gate.
So it had a gate at one time, it's on the pictures, I guess, huh?
I mean, there's notches there where it used to have
Okay. Okay.
hinges, I guess.
I don't know if Bill took it off to get the lawnmower in. I don't know where it's at.
The county turned it in when steel prices were up.
The cannons were.
Brent, I do have one other thing here. This project that we looked at this, would you like to see the deeds or anything, or should I
no,
just give it
I
to
talked to Kenny about it.
Okay, so I'll give it to Mr. Schneider next time he's in, and we'll do that.
Oh, there's nothing to report on that. It's just,
Okay.
it's just early coordination. They're gonna replace the bridge or box on 145. United's doing it.
So I'm
If we-
here.
Yeah. As long as we don't have any environmental concerns on it, that's what's concerning.
Something Jay had said spurred a recollection that we had a street vacation in
Celestine. I got that
Whatever
too.
happened to that? That was like a month ago that I saw something on that.
It came in right after the last meeting. That Celestine vacation.
You talking about
Well,
right?
no, there were two of them.
It's on the agenda, it's just not yet.
Yeah.
Wait for advertising.
We talking, the other one that I emailed you guys about. Sorry, yes. I gave that stuff to Art and I haven't heard since.
Okay.
So I think he's talking over with.
That was on the south side of Sullivan.
Yes, I forgot all about that one. Yes.
Okay.
But at this point, I think the last email we had on the Reitman property was,
It's coming.
you asked about advertising, and that's the last I heard of it.
It's on the agenda for the next meeting, you had to go through the advertising. It's the 10 days.
Is there anything, I guess, before we get into the next meeting, is there a significant county benefit to not releasing that property? Because if I remember right, I went out and looked at it, you drive, and it goes downhill.
The only thing is the property owner to the south, Austin R, is if he would want to develop on the
That's
south
not
side.
right. You're not talking about the Reichman property.
I'm talking about New Orleans Street, it's on the north side.
Oh, north side of Celestine, the one that's actually coming, we have, yes. I don't see any benefit of keeping that.
That one has a single owner all the way through, and it doesn't kind of ditch
Yeah.
down, and it, I didn't think so, but I wanted to ask, the highway folks before we gave up a property that would be, of benefit.
Right. Single owner is the key to it, when you own both sides.
Right.
And that, to your point on the one on the south side, that's not a single owner.
That'll look differently.
Yeah.
Anything else? Okay, 9:00, we have the auditor treasurer window remodel, Mr. Hope.
You guys need a copy of that? I sent you one of them.
Thanks.
sent you guys all a copy from Universal Designs for their estimate for what they're going to charge to, draw up some plans and give us some ideals for the auditor and treasurer's office.
I think our only,
Don't know what you guys, what's your thoughts or what you want to do.
so since the last meeting, Commissioner Brahms, I did review the area. It's obvious to me that the north display case, if we do the remodel, this change would have to go. I was over there a couple days, one time I met with Scott the other day, I met with other staff about options. Have you explored any of the options of getting rid of that north display case yet? Have you-
I talked to her, she said she'd be interested in it. She had a board meeting Thursday night, I think, and I hadn't heard back from her.
Her museum,
Yes,
Was that about the items or about the display case?
just a case. That summer sun girl.
It's very nice. I mean, it's a nice display case.
it is, no, I've looked at it.
Well, that's, she wanted to look to see if they can find room for it, and she wanted to talk to her board. But she acted like he probably more than likely take it.
So this is another situation where ARPA money could be potentially used for it, or use other county funds, I suppose, depending on what, if the council wanted to use something else. I'm in favor of moving forward with, I think the only thing we could really, as far as I'm concerned, the only things we could discuss is Universal Designs. Is their proposal acceptable to us? They would do the designing at a fixed design fee of $16,800. I guess our options would be we can accept this and find out what the project would entail, so we can be prepared to take it out for bids, or we could ask for another bid from another design company if we wanted to do that. I trust Universal Design would be a good partner. The price is what it is.
Yeah.
I guess I compare it to the 911 center out there, the cost for the design for that is $30,000, I think is what we're paying for that. And this is for a couple offices, probably not as detailed, so I guess it's probably in the right range for what design services cost.
No, and I know we discussed this before, I mean, our option to design and bid or design build, I guess is the way to say it. And I think we, in our discussion before, we kind of decided to go in this direction.
Because we don't know what the cost will be, and if it's over, what, $50,000, we'd have to bid it anyway,
So,
I think they do all that, don't they, the bidding and, or they put the specs out for the contractors and everything.
I'm sure they,
Yeah.
normally they would anyway, unless this project is different. They would handle all that.
Yeah, they handle it all, it says.
And they've done work for us before, as you said, and are good partners, so I'm okay with that.
Again, we're back to the same thing we were with the concrete, who's gonna pay for it, and how we're gonna pay for it.
I agree that ARPA money, it makes sense to me that it would be applicable to limit the traffic within the offices. But considering what we just went through with the last discussion, I'm a little gun shy on that, and we need to verify that with.
I thought we did.
I think he did, I
I
think.
thought Baker Tilly said
Baker
yes, it
Tilly?
could be.
Okay.
Trying to-
It's security, right?
Okay, here's his response. This is from Baker Tilly. Could be a qualifying expense if we're comfortable with it under the frequently asked questions 2.1. And I did look at 2.1, it looked like it would meet those terms, so we've had our financial advisor look at it, and they said it probably would. And overall, maybe I've heard an estimate in the range of $100,000, including the design fee, so I think that's a reasonable way to proceed, if the board is okay with that.
Yep.
Is the county treasurer okay with proceeding in this fashion? County auditor, are you okay with proceeding in this fashion for design? And are you fine with this?
And the overall concept that we're thinking about is to have a window or on the auditor's side,
Auditors would be
the
about like the church or the clerk in the.
a mirror of the clerk's office.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, Kitty's
And the
would
treasurer
be-
would be smaller.
2 windows instead of 3.
We're running into the heater. We gotta look into the heater. It may be 3. We're gonna see what these guys design.
You probably maximize your space, but your space is limited by
Right.
foundational.
And a heater, foundation, or concrete wall, a beam or whatever, and then the heater on the other side, so.
And I
But
discussed,
we don't actually need more than 2 windows in reality, other than, I mean, there's twice a year when we're very busy. Other than that, 2 windows is fine.
and hopefully we won't be making any changes for the next 50 years. So if the population increases, we may have more parcels,
Also, at that point,
I won't have to worry about
probably people are paying online, you know? 10 years from now, probably everyone's gonna be paying online.
And so there was one design element that I mentioned briefly to the treasurer that I didn't care for, and Scott, but we'll go through design and we'll see where it pans out.
Yeah.
So,
And as far as space and need and that sort of thing, the only reason I said that for the auditor's office is to match the clerk's office. You have nothing there to match.
Yeah.
There's nothing on the other side, so.
Right.
So, you'll build what space allows and what your needs are.
Right.
well, I guess for today, Commissioner, if we would say that we will agree to a proposed fixed design fee not to exceed $16,800, we can say that we will, if you're comfortable, we'll take it out of the ARP fund.
Okay. Yeah, so,
You're comfortable with that? So I'll make the motion that we do that we approve moving forward with Universal Design. They may need to get us something for signatures for agreement of services, because this is just this doesn't have that. But for an amount not to exceed $16,800 for design services with Universal Design.
And just sign that one, I'll see if it's good.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
While I'm here, monument out front has about 4 stones, I think it's 4 stones. 4 big stones that need to be replaced. I sent you guys all pictures of them. I was talking to the guys that working on the church up there, since they're here in town, and I had the guy come down and look at it, and they gave me a quote of replacing 4 of them for $5,000. He said they'll take a sample, if we get them the okay today, before they leave. I think they're gonna leave this week, it's their last, or he said something about being here this week yet. Guy's gonna break off a chunk of it, one of the bad ones, and then take it back, and then they're gonna get some stones made to match it, and then they'll put it back in. He said if we got a mild winter, they'll do it this winter. When they do, they got some more work at the church to do, or they'll do it first thing in the spring. To replace them. That way they don't charge us mileage and trip time or whatever.
Okay. Okay.
So we're gonna replace it, but yet we're gonna tear it down then?
No, what he's talking about is
There's a wall around the outside.
the wall around the outside. His has nothing to do with the monument.
This is the
So
monument.
this is the actual monument itself.
There's 4 stones in there that are, need to be replaced. And I've got the money for that, I think. Unless I
Are you
got it.
satisfied that that's a acceptable price for the work that will be done?
I think it is. I mean, they're big stones.
Yeah, I can't imagine that it's overpriced. Not a great deal anyway, because that, it's a considerable amount of work to manufacture or to to cut those stones and then to
Match.
install them, match them and install it and that sort of thing.
And we have, all that they're asking for is water hookup and a power source, so I don't think we have any.
That's not gonna be a problem.
By water hookup, you mean a water, garden hose or
Just water hose hookup. I'm satisfied to move forward, I think that that's an important, piece of our community, and we have to maintain it.
Sure, absolutely.
So I'll move that we, approve the proposal from MMI in the amount of $5,000 for replacement of 4 stones in the monument.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. And I've signed this page and I'll have the auditor, witness it. I think we'll be good with that.
Sign the other one. MMI.
That's a single
Do
copy.
you want me to?
Can we do multiple copies?
No, that's good.
And then there's the other one there.
Do I need to sign this thing now?
As a witness.
Just keep a copy for us, Scott. Give a copy to Sandy. When you're done.
That should be all that I got.
Thank you, sir. Anything else?
No, thank you.
Next up is the 4D 2022 part-time to full-time position. Michelle is here. Michelle works with the Child Support Office, and Mr. Schoenfeld couldn't be here today. He's out of the office, so she's going to present to us.
I have some papers he's asked me to give you.
Thank you. You can. Sure, you can sleep it there, and I'll make sure he gets it.
Did you see that?
$5,000. Okay, so the request last time was that Mr. Schoenfeld asked for authorization to take one of their part-time positions to full-time. Currently, I believe, and you can please correct me if I'm mistaken, there's two full-time positions and a part-time position. Currently, the part-time employee has resigned within the last month or two,
That's correct.
and so your office currently is short-staffed.
That is correct.
And the argument could be that they were short-staffed even with the part-time position, hence the request for a full-time position.
Yes.
And can you explain to us what the numbers you presented to us are?
Yes, so this is Bill's handwritten explanation for you. The $17.49 an hour is based on the 2020-22 proposed budget, once it's, approved. At 35 hours a week, that's our minimum that we have to work over at the Child Support Office. He broke it down to the weekly amount times the 52 weeks. Which gives you the $31,831.80 per year. The FICA, PERF, and insurance calculations he has broken down there, those are based on 2021 figures that we received from Sandy. We kind of use her figures every year for our proposed budget for the next year. And then he has everything added together to equal the $52,362.76. 66% is reimbursed by the state to the county. So that $17,803.34 would be the cost based on the 2022 budget request.
With that reimbursement amount, the 2/3, and is there a chance that we don't get that? Are you aware of how that works? And the reason I'm asking is, what if we hired 2 more people? Would they give 2/3 of that? Or what if we hired 4 more people? Would they continue to give that? And it's up to us what kind of staffing we have there, or how do they do that? Do you know how they do that figuring?
I don't know for sure. I know that since I've been there, it's always been, they reimburse 66%. And I've been full-time in that office since 2012. And that's always been the reimbursement amount.
I guess my fear is we say, okay, hire the person, and then they say, oh, we only do it up to a certain level, or you've overstaffed due to your case numbers, or I don't know what that would be, but if we make the proposal, or we accept it based on we're only paying a third, that's different than if we pay the full amount.
Yeah, I see what you're getting at. Is there any auditing of the work that gets done by the state? In other words, could we hire somebody in your office to do highway work?
No, because we have different performance measures that we have to maintain every year, every fiscal year. There are 4 performance measures that we have to, and we have to
You have
report.
to submit that,
Yes.
report that, so that's the auditing
Yeah.
mechanism that I'm looking for.
Yeah, we have, every month I have to do a monthly expense calculation and say how much, how much we've reported as far as payroll, insurance, benefits, our supplies, our other, expenses. We submit all that every month. And that is reimbursement by the federal government. So I guess if we lost it, the whole state would lose it
Mhm.
because it is from the federal government.
So, Mr. Rhodes is here as well. He's our HR director, and he ran some numbers similar to what Mr. Shaneyfeld did, and I think his numbers came up a little higher, but, in the ballpark. So the difference would be around $30,000 total, but if I compare what the county is paying that isn't reimbursed so currently versus this, it may be a $10,000 additional hit to our county budget, I believe. Because we're currently, the total expected cost for the position would be about $27,000. It would go up to double that, but we're only paying a third of it, so.
Is that 2/3, is that off of wages alone, or is that total?
I don't know.
I didn't know if you would know.
I asked that last time, and he said that it's 2/3 of everything.
Okay.
That's, say he's go,
Mr. Shaneyfeld.
Mr. Shaneyfeld said that.
I will tell you that I'm working about a 40-hour week right now, and I could work a 50-hour week and still have plenty of stuff to do. I'm the administrator, so I have all the administrative things in addition to my actual caseload. Since our part-time person left, I've taken over her caseload. So the other caseworker has about a third. I'm carrying about 2/3 of the caseload. We have approximately anywhere from 950 to 1,000 cases for our county alone that we're working.
Part of me, normally, I would really be, the 2/3 being reimbursed just makes the decision a lot easier because it's less burden on the county. And I don't think, I don't know what else to really say. I'll take any feedback you have if you have any.
I'm supportive of it. From what I've heard, I think there is a need. Maybe if we were looking at 100% county funded, I may ask for additional information or something, or look into it, or think about it a little bit more than this for $10,000, as you said. I think it's worth that to get additional help in your office.
I think whenever I came in initially this morning, my ask to this department would be, well, you haven't recruited a part-time person. You don't know who you'll find. You may find a great person that is part-time. The original process that Mr. Shaneyfeld was going to do was to work with a part-time person at least until 2023. So he thought that they could get through that far. So my initial thought was going to be hire somebody part-time, see if it works out. If it doesn't, then we'll readdress it. But I don't believe he's made an effort to do the part-time person because he's assuming there won't be a well-qualified person that will take the position in a part-time.
He did ask me to share with you the day after the last meeting. He did get a phone call from a potential applicant, and the first question was, is this a full-time position with benefits?
Mm-hmm.
So I know that that's, what people are looking for. I know it's important. We did have a part-time person, I know that 2 years ago when he approached for a full-time position, he was asked for to go part-time as a third position, we did try that.
So I believe the process would be, if we approve this today, Commissioner, would be that we would make the change that we would approve the change from a part-time to full-time position, and then it would be up to the county council to determine if they can make an additional appropriation for
Well, they
next
have
year.
to make an additional in January because you can't do it now. The budget's already set.
What they
Even less
could
than
do-
the budget time.
What they can do is hire the person today on a part-time
Part-time
basis,
basis until,
and they've been approved for part-time next year as well. But you'd have to work with the council to see if they can find a way to fund.
so if the council meets in January, it would be probably February before they get to start, close to, depending
We
on
do
what
understand that.
Yeah, no, I get that. In other words, we're creating the position, but it's up to the council if they choose to fund it and how they choose to fund it.
Can you think of an alternative way to accomplish the work without making a person full-time instead of part-time?
I really don't. Like I said, I could work a 50-hour week and still have plenty to do. We have a new statewide system coming next year, and it's gonna be a lot different than what we're used to now. So I know that, there's gonna be work there. It's not going to go away.
Well, and you may find that the call he had since the last meeting, that person may be willing to work part-time with the assurance that it will become a full-time position down the road.
Yes.
So that we're not talking about two different employees.
Correct.
Mr. Rhodes, do you have any comments to add to the discussion?
No, I think the only thing I would probably encourage Bill to go ahead and recruit for that position on a part-time basis, and we can go ahead and see what's available, because the funds are there for that part-time position right now. And we can get some stuff, for several months, because otherwise February, we're looking without that position for 6 months, because they left in August. We're already 2 months in without this person in that position, so, see what's out there. We might find the perfect candidate to start on part-time to go full-time, so that'd just be my suggestion.
The next question we would have, Mr. Rhodes, maybe help with this one as well. They're putting this down as a 35-hour employee. Should we make it, are we comfortable with making it a 35-hour employee, or should we make it a 37.5-hour employee, or 40-hour?
40. I'm really open to either, whatever works out, whatever, if they find somebody, but they want to keep it to 35, that's what we're doing elsewhere in the county. I understand that it's more efficient, the more hours you put on it. If you go 40, it's more efficient, and I would certainly be open to that. Costs us more money, but we get more work.
I'm a fan of the 37.5. You get your regular work day, you get a half-hour lunch, a 7-hour lunch, and we have the people. The person has 2.5 more hours to do the work of whatever the day that's there. So, Ms. Rhodes, do you have a thought on that? Because Michelle, for example, works as needed, 35-hour minimum, up to 40, maybe over 40 occasionally, or not?
No,
rarely?
because there's no overtime approved, so
Okay, there's no overtime,
No.
Bruce, she works 40 at max.
So I'm guessing that your budgeted number is that budgeted? 'Cause I-
Budgeted 35 hours.
no,
Yeah,
they budget
yeah,
higher
so-
because they can get higher money. They get paid hourly, so whatever they work, they get up to 40. So they budget for 40 hours.
I believe that's correct.
Oh, well, what was
But an
presented
average-
to us was 35 hours.
For an average all year, we say we work at least an average of 35 a week.
I think you're one of the only offices there that's getting paid more on an
Hourly.
hourly basis.
That's
It's
correct.
most everybody's set up to be more of a salary aside from like the.
With comp time, they don't get comp time, they get paid.
as far as that one would be nice, go uniform across the board on the set salaries, you know, 35 hours a week or whatever that would be, and then, you know, earn the comp time. I think that would be a lot easier, more transparent. I guess what you guys got working.
Would it cause a problem to have an employee working 37 and a half, 40 hours or 35, it doesn't matter in your office, like you said. It could be a problem if we have one person in the auditor's office working 40 hours and everybody else works 35.
Correct.
But in this case, I think I would like to approve it at 37 and a half hours.
I'm okay with that.
That way, whenever a job description is made, from part-time to full-time, we know that the person is expected for those hours. So I think I'm prepared to do that. Again, a lot of it is because we are getting reimbursed considerably for it. Anytime somebody can bring a need and a way to pay for part of it, makes it a lot easier on our part. So I'll make that motion that we approve moving this position from part-time to full-time, with full-time being designated as 37 and a half hours per week for the position for a 40 caseworker, pending approval of the county council of funding the position.
The last part, I'm wondering if that's technically correct.
I'm wondering if it's even necessary.
Yeah, we are creating it, then it's up to the council as to whether they want to fund it. But whether they fund it or not, we would still be creating it.
But if we do it this way, then it's, if they
Right,
say
back
we're not
to
funding it, then it takes it back down to where it is currently.
Okay.
So it is only
So we have to-
created if there's money for it.
We'd have to address it again then someday if we,
Correct.
okay. All right, I'll second it.
Any other discussion? Anything else from, HR? Or anyone else?
Aye.
All in favor? Say
Aye.
aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So you'll have to, find a time to get in front, Bill or yourself, but get in front of the council. And I would also ask you to get with, or Mr. Shanefield gets with, Mr. Rhodes. Thank you. I'm gonna take 5 minutes and I'll be right back.
Okay.
Came down yesterday. How are you? I'm gonna look this over later.
Hey, are you,
We're steering clear of those this year. I'd like to. We've got a lot going on. Other things going on. I want to talk about it.
I haven't seen anything new on the,
Yeah, this thing.
mid-section.
We should have more in December.
You get 10 or 12. so you get a-
Okay, sounds good.
So it was fun that we did see the whole park. And it was absolutely gorgeous. It was the first time we were there. So, and we came, Steel Day. Had a great stay at the Hampton. It was great day. Yeah.
We were up there a little bit, with the afternoon.
Oh, really? That's a fun, right? Yeah. Now, well, from a county standpoint, I noticed we were crossing over, county lines out there. So when you go out to the point in the park, I think that's Orange County. They don't maintain any of the roads out there, or is it the state take care of all that? Or I guess my question, you know, because you have a little bit, that bumps up to, yeah.
Because actually the lake built flooded several county roads.
Yeah.
Even they have trying to do there, build it, we got roads around it, looking for farm roads.
other layers in it, but,
Yeah, because it's, you know, it's funny because normally people that are out of the park think, oh, this is so nice. It's like, oh, we just crossed the county line and this is all state property, but I think that we're county road, or the county road out there, so.
If there's a limit on
Oh. Well, yeah, it was, you know, it was also a lot of fun. As we're coming in, everyone's heading out. It was, they were all lining up and
Go back to it.
doing their thing.
Yeah, I'm ready.
It was, it was a lot of fun.
I've already before this.
Oh, yeah, what, a commissioner has never lost a time.
So with the 4D reimbursement.
Oh, yeah.
Is there how is there a list made on the reimbursements we get out of the office? For example, they ask for a part-time full-time employee.
Yeah.
It's gonna cost extra money.
Okay.
So how are we to know that that's
So
allowed?
I'll answer it, I'm gonna ask some questions, but I'll answer it in a global Title 4D program. So, the most important thing is that the person that's going to, the people or the things, the 4D program has to be utilized on child support, specifically with Title 4D cases. So, that's complicated in the clerk's office and in the court when you have a split. In the prosecutor's Title 4D office, that's 100%. So that's kind of a number. So when you look at that, so that person, so you hire, to make it simple, hire a new person in the prosecutor's 4D office, that becomes 100% eligible for
Get used to it.
reimbursement. And the reimbursement is, generally speaking, 66%. So that's a cooperative reimbursement. So the state and county share is the 30.
So my question to the lady that was previously was, well, what if we hire 10 new staff members and their caseload is now 10? Does it all get reimbursed or?
Well, if they're doing, yeah, if their caseload is lowers the caseload, that's okay, as long as that's all they do. So if you had the person, we'll stay specifically in prosecutor, if you had that person paid, that they were doing also criminal prosecution or investigation, so you have an investigator, and you have, and child support, prosecutor, or child support, they can investigate anything. They have the tools, they have the knowledge how to do investigations. But if they split their time, you can only charge that time.
You'll justify it.
Yeah. So, just simply budgeting them in the 4D. Now, the other thing that you can do is, and is the prosecutor here?
No.
Okay.
There's a
That's
camera
okay.
in front of you though.
There's
There's a camera.
Well, that's okay. I just want to be clear that the prosecutor, the clerk, and the commissioners have what's known as the Title 4D incentive fund. This is a bonus money that you get, the county gets for doing a good job on child support. So prosecutors are generally pretty restrictive on letting that person open up. I don't know how much money you have in that, it's something the auditor could tell you.
He's very truthful in what he's saying.
Yeah.
If you don't, that's
I told you he'd know.
I don't know what the county number is, I know what my number is, and the clerk's number.
So and the clerks are, the clerks are generally across the state are more receptive to using that money to partially fund or fund something. Here's a clerk example, not a person, but a thing. If you have a file cabinet, you've heard this, a file cabinet that has only, not just child support, Title 4D child support, the clerk could use that incentive money to pay 100% of it. So there's no reimbursement like there would be with the general fund. So thinking about a person in the prosecutor's 4D office, they could fund, theoretically, if the dollars are there, to fund a person or a portion of a person, 100% out of Title 4D, prosecutor's incentive fund. Now, you have to and there's some,
I was wondering.
we have some challenges with that, with other people in the state on that concept. Because we believe that it's much better to use money at 100%, that you don't, it's not your money, it's federal money, they want you to reinvest. So it's better to use that money than to spend $1 of county money and only get 66 cents back. Because that's what would happen. So, so while the incentive money is there, now, if the prosecutor doesn't have enough money in the prosecutor's incentive fund, there is a form, there's a tool with Department of Child Services. The commissioner's money you can transfer, and then the prosecutor could use that money to use it however legitimately for Title 14.
So they can use their bonus money in their paper position.
That's right, and it also, and no one more stuff, depending on how much the clerk has, I don't know, the clerk incentive fund. Yeah, well,
Not your job.
well, as consultants of Title 4D, we're very happy to help her spend the money.
Right.
Especially in the state, so that's how we get paid. Yeah, so I'm not, so she's using the incentive money, clerk incentive money to pay us. So whatever we do doesn't affect, it only helps the general fund and has no negative impact on it. Now, on the prosecutor side, then you'd have to take a look at that. And that's again, an easy to pull up how much prosecutor incentive is there and how much commissioner's incentive is there. So those are the two options that you have as a commissioner. And a council.
We better get back. Thank you, I appreciate your help.
Oh,
That's great.
When you reference the commissioner's fund.
That's what I said. Yeah.
So let's,
The commissioner.
you're welcome. Okay, we'll get back to order. The next item on the agenda is office space. Chelsea Brewer isn't available today, so we have Ms. Wilson here.
So you get me, you lucky duck. So, the only thing that has changed since last time we met with you, in looking at our budget, we have an extra $1,000 that we're willing to put towards, extra rent due to not having our postage machine anymore at the office. So, that is an extra savings that we didn't calculate in last time we came and talked with you. So, I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
So you have, explain that again, you have an extra $1,000
To put towards rent, from our budget that we had previously
okay.
had approved,
okay.
because we had figured in having that postage machine, and we don't use that anymore, we're just using stamps.
I got it. It's not, it doesn't change the lease agreement that you might have with them, it's
No.
just your budget. Okay.
Yep. We're trying to help be as conservative as possible, knowing that. And again, our goal is for, after the first year or two, to be able to make up most of that extra rent by renting out that space ourselves and utilizing it for programming and charging for that programming. As our goal is to help the entire DuBois County. So you think about a lot of times whenever we have to go to a school to do a program for space, or we've got to utilize a library somewhere to utilize space, usually people only from that part of the community come. But if we're centrally located and we are in a county building, it's more seen as a countywide program, as we are here to serve the whole county. So.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, tell me again, what is the difference between the rent you pay now, the lease you have now versus this one? Is it on an annual basis?
On an
Or
annual
a
basis,
monthly basis?
on a monthly basis, so right now we're paying about $1,600 a month, and that's gonna be about $4,000.
Now, I did make the comment last time, I don't know if anybody followed through. The current landlord you have gets a deduction because he's renting to government. Has anybody approached this landlord about that?
I think Chelsea did, but I don't know what she heard back from him.
Because if he gets taxes reduced, then he can reduce the rent.
We had a few unforeseen circumstances last week that didn't allow us to get as much accomplished with this task that we were hoping to, before Chelsea headed out.
And in discussions with the
And then I as well, from my area account, have money to give towards rent to the tune of about $500 a month. That would help take off from that. And then we've also played with our budget some, as you saw in the papers that Chelsea gave you last time, to help buffer those costs. So again, trying to be mindful of, we understand it's an ask.
So if we do nothing, then your $500 a month can go towards the $1,600.
No, because my director is only allowing me to have this extra money to get us a better space for Purdue Extension.
Got it.
But the $1,000, that doesn't change whether you move or don't.
No.
Can you tell me too, the postage machine didn't cost you $1,000 more a month than the postage you're using now? So how is that?
There was rental associated with that on an annual basis.
It was $12,000 a year to rent a postal machine.
It was several $100s, and we don't use as much in postage now as what we have been. Every year we use a little less postage because we have new systems now and we do a lot more email-based and online-based communication than sending out, posts all the time. And unfortunately, the post is not really as reliable as we like it to be.
No, the $500 a month that you could support bringing in, because where did the person in your position previously, where were they out of?
I'm in a new position.
Right, I know you're in a new position, but somebody had that position before you, didn't they, for the area or not?
It was a district position, and so instead of the person handling 2 areas, we now have an area-to-area director.
Oh, okay,
So-
I was thinking you took someone else's place
Nope.
for the area.
It's an additional position.
Okay.
And so the director of extension is allowing us to have extra funds out of Purdue's budget in order to get us a better space that would be better for Purdue Extension in Du Bois County, because he feels like we need to grow and we have a very large staff and we're not able to get done what we should be able to get done in the space that we have, because we're constantly searching somewhere else for space.
The person, who owns the building that you're looking at, how long was that? Did they give you a time period as to how long they would hold that at that price?
You mean how long they would hold it without the rent going up?
Yes,
What?
before we make a decision.
I feel that he's being very kind already. We told him it would probably for sure be the first of the year or February, and he's been okay with that, but I don't know how long. There's other people that I know want the bottom part of the building, and he's looking to us favorably because he knows that we would be a long-term rental, so we do have that going for us. But I think he's being very kind in building it out exactly to our specs without any extra charge on us. The other spaces that we've looked at, we would pay to have it built the way that we needed it, or remodeled the way that we needed it, and then we would be paying that amount of rent on top of it or more for the same amount of space. This is by far the best price that we found per month, and he's going to build it out for us, which is a huge expense that we're not having to incur.
So we wouldn't lease until January, February,
Probably.
but he's probably looking.
He's
for-
gonna start building it out as soon as we give him the okay. He's already got it gutted, so he's just waiting on us, basically. Kindly.
But you have no proof that there's any income. I mean, you don't have any agreements with anybody that would rent any of your space. So that's, we'll say wishful thinking or hopeful thinking.
We don't have any agreements with people that would rent our classroom space.
Yeah, like say you had that space,
Mhm.
and Chelsea brought it up to, we'll try to rent it, but we don't have any commitments for renting that space to.
We don't, but I've been trying to get into the library several months out, and it's already all rented up. So I know there's a need in our community for that kind of a space.
What does the library charge for the space rental? If it is available.
It depends on, so I only know for not-for-profits, because that's what I checked it in for county not-for-profits, you get it for free 12 times, but after that you pay, I don't know, it was pretty considerable, I felt like, but I just put in my mind, we don't have funds to pay for rental space, so we check with the schools and with everybody else so that we don't have to pay when we rent or when we utilize other space. So I don't know what that cost is. Danny, do you know what that cost is? And we all just had in our mind we could use it 12 times, so.
Because free is pretty cheap.
Yeah.
I've just got this kind of has to do with the last week's issue more than this one, but it's gonna tie in, I think. So can you tell me the leadership structure with Purdue Extension, Du Bois County? There's an extension board, is that correct?
Yep.
But they aren't really in charge of, say, Chelsea as the
No,
director. Are you in charge of?
The extension board is not for each council.
nope.
Okay. Just to clarify that.
So can you maybe just tell me what the leadership board is, or who's in charge of who?
How high up do you want me to go?
Well, let's just start with you.
Okay, I am the administrator of all of Purdue Extension in Area 3,
Okay.
which includes our county, which means that I am over Chelsea. Chelsea is over the office, which includes our other 2 educators who are here today and our county office staff. We do have 2 people that work in our office that are community wellness coordinators and nutrition education program assistants. Their boss is Jill Tooley, who is the area director for, that's funded out of a different stream than what our Purdue Extension is. That's funded through some other grants. So they have their own programming and administration there.
So if someone had a problem with Chelsea, something she was doing in the office,
You
they would
go-
come to you.
Mhm.
If somebody had a problem with you, then
And you go to
There's a
Jason
statewide.
Henderson. Jason Henderson, he's the director of Purdue Extension and the assistant dean of College of Agriculture at Purdue.
And how large is Area 3?
11 counties.
11 counties.
it's not fun telling people no, but I don't like the location and I don't like the expense. That's my first, I guess, blunt feedback. I
Don't like the location of the proposed.
yes, I don't like where they're at now, and I'm not saying that there's not a need for something different or better, and I don't even mind the county investing in something different. I don't necessarily like the second floor of the central building there at $4,000 a month. Those are that's cutting to the chase, I suppose. How do you feel about the location and the cost?
I don't know that I have a problem with the location or the fact that it's the second floor, it's handicap accessible.
Yep.
Um,
More so than our building is now.
Parking is certainly better than what you have now.
Yep.
You know, I don't know what the negatives about the location are, other than that it's second floor,
It has an elevator.
but it's accessible. I think, I mean, you're right, compared to what they have now. You know, I've been visited there several times, and I know that you're on top of one another in there, and there's a need, okay, so I'm gonna say there's a need. I have 2 issues. Number one, if we make a move with our criminal justice system and do something out on the hill with our criminal justice system, what does that do for our space, other space that might be available that we already own here in the county? But then I take a look at that and I say, but how long is that going to be like that? And this lease, did I understand, was 3 years, 5 years?
5 years.
5 years, 5-year lease. That maybe a little bit longer, that if we did something now, that's a little bit longer than what we would need, perhaps, but not a lot, longer. And the other issue, you made reference to things going on in the office now and in the past week. Should we let that resolve itself first before we make a move here?
I don't know if that changes.
I don't know
the
if
I
it's
don't
gonna
know.
change the need in our
It
office.
doesn't- It doesn't change,
But it feels like there's something unresolved, but I
Yeah.
get that.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, if we make a vote on it today, and I vote no, and he votes yes, then you're out. It might be a better idea to make the determination when Commissioner Hostetter has a say in it as well. I think that would be a good thing, so.
and that's where I was asking. I think I'd like to wait 2 weeks.
Okay.
I know we said that the last time. And then make it, and to your point, to allow Commissioner Hostetter to weigh in.
I will say probably since last time you visited our office, we probably have 2 to 3 more staff in there since last time. We have people sitting more clumped together than we did 3 months ago.
You have more produced staff?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, we are rotating when people are coming in the office, in some cases, especially our part-time staff. There's just no space. And we, for the amount of money that Purdue and the county is investing in our office, we need to be able to invest in this community the way that we were built to invest in this community. And more so. We just hired a staff member who has the ability to speak both English and Spanish. And we need to bring in more people and have a space to bring them in, so that we can better serve our community. There are times that we say no, or we limit our numbers depending on what the weather is or what space we can get, and we wouldn't have to do that here. We think it's the perfect space for us. We've spent most of the summer traveling around with different realtors, looking at different spaces all over the county. And we chose this space to bring to you because it's by far the best and the best rental, and the person that's going to work with us to give us what the county and what Purdue Extension needs. So I don't come to you, and Chelsea doesn't come to you selfishly in needing the space, but we've got staff that aren't wanting to work there because it's disgusting. I know what we pay right now is like $1,600 a month, but you've seen the space, that's why we pay what we pay. The guy is not willing to even hardly replace a toilet that needed replaced. I am trying to trap a snake right now. I don't know if that goes under other duties as assigned, but every day, we found tracks again the other day. We thought it had left the building, but he is not lifting a finger to help with that. We are still having to call the exterminators out whenever we see a track. So this week, we're gonna set a minnow trap and put some of my fresh eggs in there to try to catch the snake, and then I guess I'm going to have to try to move it out. So, not only for our employees, but you can only imagine what it's like when you bring clients into a space like that. It's not appropriate working conditions, and I think we've done more than most to try to play with our budget and to contact Purdue to try to help offset the cost of this move. And we're even thinking differently about how we do programming already, so that if we make this move, we can help bring that money back. So it's not that large investment long-term for you.
I think what I would appreciate, if we are gonna hold up for 2 weeks anyway, within the next 2 weeks, if, it might help change my mind if, I can see the space, maybe it's better than I'm assuming. I think the argument that I made to Chelsea was, for me personally, if I was going to come do a program, I feel comfortable in my local library, I feel comfortable at my local school. That location I don't know, it just doesn't do anything for me. Yeah, I mean, I could park there and I guess I could figure it out depending on how strongly I feel about joining or being a part of a given program.
So we want to be known as Purdue Extension. So if we have a program at the Ferdinand Library, we're going to get people from Ferdinand to come. And they're going to think it's a Ferdinand Library program. If I do a program at Jasper High School, we get only families from Jasper to come because people from the other 3 schools don't come. If I do a program at Holy Trinity School, I get only those families, which means that we're doing a program right now 5 times, so we can go to each of the different schools. I suppose it doesn't matter because we're paid on salary, so we can do the program 5 times instead of just once. But we need to make a name for Purdue Extension so that people don't keep saying, what's Purdue Extension, where are you located? And I tell them we're in the basement of the Soil and Water Department. Oh, there's a basement there? Yes, there is. Out there next to Schwenk Family Dentistry? Yes, oh yes. We're always next to something else, in the basement of something else. We're doing it at this place. We need to start doing it at our own place so people see the value of Purdue Extension here. And then we can start bringing in revenue to help pay for that space.
Yeah, I certainly appreciate that. And I think the other thing that I mentioned was the commercial building at the 4-H property too, of building out what we need.
There's not going to be any building to that. You're going to have to level it in order to build it.
So, again,
I think that's one of the issues that I need to get over a lot of times with, when I think of the Purdue Extension Office, I think of 4-H. And 4-H is a vital, important part of what you do, but it is not all of what you do.
Exactly.
And I need to remember that when I think about Purdue Extension.
Yes. So that's the point of having a separate office. I think if we move out to the fairgrounds, why I selfishly would like that, because I'm the 4-H person, right? That's not what's best for Purdue Extension, because again, people aren't going to go out there if they're not associated with 4-H as much as they're going to come to the Purdue Extension office.
I suppose I don't see, if it's located here, I don't see it bringing any more people from Huntingburg or Ferdinand than it would if it's at the library either. Maybe I'm wrong. And I think too, well, to your point of finding the value in Purdue, I'm one of those people that, as I mentioned last time when she was here, I said every time that you come, I'm still wondering what exactly does Purdue Extension do? And I don't feel as educated on it as I should. So if I feel that way, I'm sure the community feels similarly, or at least some members of it. So if I'd be open to looking at the location and having furthering the discussion and helping you. At this point, just what's in my head, I'm not comfortable with moving forward. So I think it'd be in your best interest if we did wait, because otherwise today I think it would be at least one no vote.
Well, the other thing is you need to get to council's consensus too, that they'll agree to increase your budget. Because if they don't, it's a moot point.
Okay. So
When's-
I don't know
When's
when.
your next meeting,
Monday.
Mr.
Monday.
Listener?
Yeah, end of the month, whatever, the first, last month of the month here.
So maybe you could coordinate this,
Because, I mean, they can't do it for this year, they have to do it in January, that's why I told you it would be probably February before they can.
I mean, can I make one comment?
please do.
You know, I would like, if I'd have to approve it, I'd like to see costs. You're saying it's a good deal, but what's the cost? And then utilities. Your utilities are gonna increase double. Who pays utilities? And who pays
That's
the new
included.
furniture and all the other
It's
stuff that's gonna
included.
be required for
The
this?
rent includes the utilities.
Does it? Okay, that's
That's
fine.
what it says on
Just
here.
so it's an
And
understanding.
property taxes, which, we don't pay property taxes.
I guess
The
I
other thing,
think,
you said $1,000, that's a one, that's not per month, that's per year, you're asking.
Right.
You said per month.
oh, okay, so when she was saying we could contribute $1,000, I was assuming that you were saying $1,000 a month, but that's what, there's no way it's $1,000 a month for postage, you're saying a year, or for the whole year.
And-
That would make sense then.
And I think I could think of that $1,000 in terms of furniture you mentioned, and things like that. But otherwise, I'm thinking of it in terms of what we pay now and what we would pay after the move. So I wasn't even considering $1,000. I was considering the 500 because that is
Monthly.
new money. The $1,000 is not really new money. It's money that you can reappropriate.
Right.
But not really new money.
So Lisa, if you don't mind spending an hour with me looking at the place, and we could probably just continue the discussion on what your needs are. I think that would help me if you're willing to do that, or if Chelsea is, or some other staff member. And then we'll do it again on the agenda next time. And at least it's still alive. You know, I mean, this is still a process. I think we aren't disagreeing that there's a need. We just have to determine what the best use of the funds are to get that need met. And possibly by talking to the people that have to live it, I can get a better understanding of why that works better than an alternative.
My only concern was that we were gonna lose it if we delay too much here.
I don't know how long we can keep rolling the dice.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like he's being very kind. We first went and met with him, oh my gosh, it was right after fair. So, he's been graciously waiting.
Would it be fair to say that if you were to approach the council at their meeting on Monday, I mean, it's always best if they come to the council after we've made the determination, but it does work the other way as well. That we would make a determination at the next meeting, one way or another.
I suppose part of me says that it's the duty of the commissioners to provide a space for our county employees. On the other hand, the way that they're set up, if they had the funding, they could have an office wherever they wanted. It's not a county-owned building. Do you see where I'm going with that? Is the only reason we're involved at all is that a couple of those people are county employees.
That's
I
not
think
the
it goes beyond that.
Yeah.
I
It is
think
a
we have a
county office.
responsibility to the extension, that's part of the statute. isn't it?
Yeah.
We have a responsibility to
Yeah.
provide office space for the extension office.
We're a county office.
Right.
You just kind of get a good deal because Purdue pays part of that.
I can't
Oh,
quote you
large.
the statute or anything like that, but I think
Yeah.
I think we have that responsibility.
All right, so I think that's where we're at. If they want to approach the council to see if they're open to funding anything, and we will possibly, myself and one of the staff members, at least one of the staff members of the extension will look at the building. That's fine, I mean, that's fine with me.
Yes, you get something set up, let me know.
So is it correct by the email you sent the other day that we would have to go with each county commissioner separately over to look at that
I think
building?
for something like this, we could,
Or in a case like that, if you say at 7 o'clock on Tuesday, Jason, what's his name? Is Jason? Who owns it?
Brian.
Brian.
Frankly.
Okay, he lets us in. I can win at 7, he can come in at 7:15 right after me. I mean, if we want to go by, I don't think it'll be that big of a deal. We can find a way to make it
Okay.
convenient.
So can you explain this process to me just so I know, because I know as much about county government just because I've been working in this. So now, since I've educated you a little bit about Purdue Extension, maybe you could educate me.
Sure.
So I need to go to county council and we need to ask them if they are willing to up our budget. It won't happen for January because we've already turned it in, but possibly for February, in order for us to move to this new space. And then you would give us, if they say yes, then you would possibly give us your grace to move forward and
I think that's accurate. I mean, it could go either way.
You
because
can't
if
really
we-
sign a lease until you have the funding in place, which you don't
Right.
have the funding right now.
Right.
And the council's the people who can give you the funding.
We can sign the contract to move you someplace, they have to give you the money to do it.
Okay.
That's I think a short version of it. So
I
if they.
think so, yeah, I mean, yeah, and I'm thinking they could actually make that determination in November, December, January probably, but you need the assurance that they're going to make it, so The sooner
Well,
we
they
get
have to
that
do a
done.
consensus right now, they can't really do an increase to the budget until next year when we're in the budget. We're not in that budget yet, because
But
you
they
can do it at budget time.
They could give you assurance that they will do it at the time that it's appropriate. That's probably the best we can hope for. And then we would do it on Monday the 2nd. Is that our meeting?
First.
November 1st? Okay.
So really, the bottom line is, if we said, no, you can't move because we won't sign the contract, then it would be a dead deal. And if they said they won't fund it, even if we did agree to the move, then it would be a dead deal. So there has to be a little bit of a partnership, I guess.
Okay.
Coming together. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.
Next up, 911 move, Stuart Wilson.
We need a
Welcome.
You're running up here. He's so excited, he's running up here. Good morning.
Liability insurance payment.
I'm gonna try to hustle through. I probably have a over-ambitious agenda for the time that is allotted.
Actually, your time's already over.
I know. I really want to get an employee hired, first of all.
Yes, let's start there.
So, starting there, we wrapped our process up. The hiring board should have received an email from me yesterday with where we stand.
Yes.
We have selected Stephanie Gore as our conditionally offered employee pending background investigation, and I'll coordinate with the sheriff, and drug screening, which I'll coordinate with Marky. A tentative start date for her. With her schedule, she has a vacation out of the area. We're gonna work with her. We have some just administrative stuff we need to do. She's gonna start on November 3rd, which is kind of into the pay period. I'm not sure how the hours will work out. There'll be she will probably be short hours. She'll have a short pay period on the first pay period.
Is that allowable?
Sorry,
If somebody starts mid-week, mid-pay period,
we just pay them hourly
We just
then.
pay them hourly, yeah.
I just want to make sure before we did
We
something.
have the budget's not a concern. We have a pretty big surplus with the line item with us having the vacancy since June, so I'm hopeful. We are gonna retain the 2 candidates that were not selected in the event that we need another hire. They both came through the process well. I'm hopeful that we'll be able to maintain them, and if we have another position, we can simply just make a phone call and offer them conditionally the position. Who knows what the future holds? I'm not gonna hold my breath on any of that, but as it stands now, we do have our vacancy filled.
Myself and the sheriff are both on the hiring committee. Sheriff, I missed one, and were you at all of the
Yes.
interviews?
Yes.
The committee's in favor of what he's proposing as well, and I was fine with it, so go ahead.
Yeah. This position has been open since June.
Since June, we had a resignation in June.
Okay.
We did have to pay out a portion of that PTO for that employee that was leaving. So payroll wise, since probably the first week of July, that line item has just not been paid for that employee. So we're gonna be to the good.
And that was the first vacancy since before you were.
Correct. That prior to that, there was a short-term vacancy between an employee that was short-term.
Yeah.
Actually doubled up when the outgoing director and myself came in, that we made an appropriation for, or an appropriation was made for, but we're gonna have leftover budget dollars. I think we're gonna end up having to utilize to pay down comp time that is accumulated with us having the vacancy. The reality is, we never close, we have minimum staffing, and we have accumulated about 100, and my last count was 185 hours of comp time has come on the books since this vacancy. We'll sort that out next month, hopefully.
Yeah, my question is more how things going and, employees.
Good, we still have myself, I'm still in training, so I'm not certified to work as a 911 telecommunicator. We have another employee who is still in training as well, so technically we're down 3.
I'm happy with where we stand, being in the position that we're in, but I really want to get this person started and get them on board. Our training program runs from 6 months to 1 year, and boy, a lot can happen in that time period. So we need to get this person here. We needed them in June. Our staff has done an amazing job, and they've kind of risen to the occasion, fortunately, and we got good people there.
Good.
They continue to shine through, so.
No, I'm okay with it.
I move that we approve the hiring of Stephanie Gore, pending administrative process.
Second.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. And I was, just as a side note, those other candidates that we had, even one that dropped out, they were good candidates. We had a good turnout this
They had a
time.
really good pool. I was happy. Happy to end it with having to make the hard choices. That takes us to the Frontier contract for Avaya, which is our traditional landline support. I have sent the information to Greg Schneer. Greg, as an initial reaction, is not very supportive of Frontier contracts. I haven't got an official word. I wasn't sure if we wanted to spend a bunch of time trying to negotiate with Frontier or not. The expense is a $2,100 annual expense. I do feel very firmly that we do need that support. Those traditional landlines are rollovers for 911. When our 911 system is full, it rolls to those landline devices. We really cannot afford an outage. It also runs our administrative phone systems. Those lines are utilized very heavily. I'm skeptical to roll the dice with $2,100 in monies, but our support ended September 30th. So we don't have support. If there's a failure there, we start paying an hourly rate from the time they leave their shop in Columbus, Indiana. We're gonna have a big bill if we have a failure there. There has been failures there in the past that have been covered under the support agreement. It is the top end support agreement because it's 24/7. The ones that are not 24/7 are far less, but we don't close, so we really don't have the wiggle room there. I don't think that the county attorney in his review is going to give the blessing on the contract. I think and I know it's kind of an unusual situation, or maybe it's an unusual situation. It seems unusual to me. But I think we just need to move forward with that $2,100, knowing that our worst case scenario is we're out of $2,100, and that is a risk that I'm willing to take at this point, knowing that we don't have any support in place.
Is that per month or just
Annual.
annual?
And that was paid out of existing budget items. This isn't a budgetary ask, or this is a restructure of support contracts, splitting up the 911 support from the landline support. The 911 support has moved to a different vendor, totally separate contracts. That's already been accomplished.
I'm okay with moving forward with this for the next year. We can look at other options for next year.
I think ultimately, if we do have a move, I hate to keep kicking everything down the road, but if we do have a move, obviously this is going to be a point of contention, or this is going to be something we'll have to research and try to find a better solution. If we could leave Frontier behind, I would gladly do so. However, we can't.
Do you have an agreement with you today, or?
I have a copy of what they sent to me. It was last year's contract that has already expired. I don't know if I have one for signing or not, Chad.
So I hate to agree to something that we don't have, and if, especially if Mr. Schneer has, it's one thing if he says it's a safe thing for us to sign, he just doesn't like how it's set up. That happens sometimes, because they'll want their jurisdiction, or there'll be some minor contentious issue, but it's usually something we can allow.
I do have a paper copy of what they sent me. It has been forwarded to Greg. I don't know how much time he's had to review it, honestly. It's only been 2 or 3 weeks. He's been unavailable for some of that time. This is the copy that I have.
So delaying it simply.
Delaying it jeopardizes,
We're risking,
we're risking a significant bill in the event that we have a failure, either software, hardware.
Yeah.
I mean, I know those bills are incredibly expensive.
but the
We have to
contract,
call them.
but the contract will be available 2 weeks from now, just like it is now.
Correct. I'm not sure specifically why. Apparently there have been some other issues with Frontier contracts that do not affect my office. Greg could speak further.
So tell me one piece of equipment that would go down that they would come and fix, that they would have to appear in person, or what? How this would-
So the physical devices, the telephones themselves, the multi-line, I don't know, they call it a van, that's the brand that it is. There's also some sort of central phone system that I don't understand. Apparently the last time we had an outage or the system failed, it needed a firmware update and it did require a person to come on site. I don't know, I don't understand those issues fully. Ken Miller was the guy that responded. I had some dealings with him when I was at the sheriff's office. They've yet to impress me, but that is the equipment that we have. I don't think the amount of money is significant enough to where I feel like we should be overly concerned about it. That's just my opinion.
And you have the existing funds in your budget?
Correct. Yeah, I think overall picture, we're actually saving money from what we were the previous year with the way the contract for 911 support in this is being restructured. The dollar amount for this portion of the support is almost identical to what we previously paid. The dollar amount is not changing. The service is not changing. It is likely still to be poor, however necessary.
The assistant director, she's been out there for a long time. She's in favor of it as well.
Yes, she's very concerned, as I am, that we do not have a support contract in place. This could fail. It could be failing right now, and we would have a bill that could be maybe not exceeding the contract on one situation, but if we have more than one call a year, we're probably going to be exceeding the amount of that contract.
It's like any insurance, hopefully we are throwing money away if we don't need it because everything goes well, but it's good to have in place.
When was the last time you had a call?
There was one this year, but prior to me being there. So
Okay.
the very first day I was out there was in mid to late March. It was a firmware and software update that they conducted, and it did require an on-site visit, which even though Frontier has a building 150 yards from us, that's not where the guy comes from. So
I think I'm willing in this case to take the director's recommendation and the assistant director's recommendation that we move forward with this. They're using part of their own budget, it's already there, we've had it for an eternity, so I think we need to, taking a 2-week risk isn't worth it to me, so I'm prepared to approve it. Hey, Rich.
Yeah, I am too, if we can, without a contract to sign, or where are we at on that?
that has provision for, and previously the director had signed the previous year's contract was signed by the director. I don't know if that was done with the commissioner's approval. It was an annual re-up of maintenance, essentially, but
I would assume that it was approved one time and then
it continually re-upped. That would be my guess, and it was lumped in with that larger maintenance agreement, which I'm sure was addressed at some point with commissioners. So I don't. With your permission, I will gladly be the signer.
I'll make that motion that we approve the 911 director to sign the agreement with Frontier for maintenance for the period of 1 year.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
And you have the 911 move consulting design.
I do. So I forwarded, it was late in the day Friday when I received the information from Ritter Strategic Services, Barry Ritter, that I've been in communication with. In discussion with RQAW, Chad, various persons in the design phase of a 911 center move, we have essentially, I'll use my own terms, we kind of hit a wall in design. RQAW is asking for information that I do not know the answer to, and I cannot provide to them. They're trying to electrically engineer for the new facility, and they don't know what the requirements are. And I can't tell them what the requirements are. Now, they have done a site visit, and they brought their electrical guy, and we've had very positive communications. I think we had a little bit of a communication breakdown. Last week, Chad followed up to an email with them. It spurred a meeting that happened between RQAW, myself, the people involved, and I believe that we will have to, for this project to continue, I believe we need a consultant. Barry Ritter was recommended to me by the state of Indiana 911 board and also by InDigital, which is one of our largest vendors for our 911 equipment. Mr. Ritter was previously a state board director, previously a 911 director involved in a 911 center move and build out of a new facility. I believe he is extremely qualified. RQAW had some familiarity with him and have worked with him in the past. He's worked with RQAW. I'm very comfortable with his experience and his expertise for this, what we're talking about here. I was hopeful that we could wait till the design prices were back so we can make the decision, or so the decision can be made on if this is going to happen or not before we spend more money. And in order to accurately design what we're talking about, I think we have to bring his services in. There's a contract that he provided that Greg has yet to see because of him just being unavailable in the timeline here. I have forwarded it to Greg for him to review. I expect that there will be changes to portions of the contract. I would not want to move forward as it stands now without his input. It is an amount of consulting services. His estimate is that it would be 18 hours of service. His billable rate is $125 an hour. It is counting 25 hours, and that is just that service and that amount is only to the electrical, the HVAC, there's a lot of aspects to it, but it is a limited function. This is not 25 hours of consulting gives us the entire consulting for a 911 center move.
Pre-construction design consulting, more technically, it's for primary and secondary power sources to identify the key operational elements of electrical requirements as requested. So I think it's reasonable to proceed. I guess I'm disappointed that RQAW can't just perform these services themselves, as they have electrical people. So I think what they're saying is, well, we'll design it. We have to know what you need.
Right. And I don't know what to tell them what we need.
So it was frustrating to me that they were waiting on him and he was waiting on vice versa. I think there was a bit of a stalemate, but I think this is just necessary. It's not to exceed $3,000, 24 hours at $125 an hour. It'll just keep us moving the ball forward.
Yeah, I don't see this whole idea. There's not going to be progress until we get through this hurdle.
And I've looked at they have a base contract and then they have a scope of agreement. The base contract is very basic. I don't think, I've given Greg a lot of contracts and I don't see anything in there that he's going to have much of a problem with. And this management agreement, basically he's going to give us what we need to get us to the next step. That's all there is to it. So I'm in favor of moving forward with it. And if we want to put the reserve on it, that we agree to it pending approval of the county attorney. That's how I would probably proceed. Have you had a chance to look at it?
I did look at it, and, you know, my limited knowledge on all of that, I didn't see any problems with it. I agree it's not a great amount of money. We're not
Right.
doubling the budget on the move or anything like that. So, it's not a great amount of money. I question too, first off, isn't that something that our design firm would be able to do, but evidently not. So,
Yeah, I think we kind of exhausted that avenue with RQAW, and we had positive conversations and positive meetings, but when everything's out on the table, I think if we don't put these services into place, we jeopardize over-designing or under-designing a new space. So we could spend totally unnecessary dollars if we don't spend the monies to see where we need to be. Or even worse, we could under-design.
Yeah.
For example, the HVAC, or the under-design the power requirements, and we could have a real problem when it comes to implementing an actual move. I would also, so you gentlemen know where I stand, I'm hopeful that we will continue to have Barry Ritter Strategic Services to join now and continue on with the project as kind of as an as needed basis. That's what I'm hopeful. There are going to be other issues that I am going to need help with. These are incredibly complex situations, and I like the style of this agreement, that it's kind of cross that bridge when we come to it type setup, and I think that suits the county, and I think it's very diligent from a cost savings and taxpayer smart use of money.
you know, I suspect that the architect from RKW, if we couldn't provide them with what they need, they would go to somebody like Ritter to get that information, and then we pay for it that way also.
I think what would happen is they would over-design the facility, and we would pay it in construction costs. And if
We think they're gonna need this much power, we're gonna design for 20% more than that, just because.
Because they want the cushion built in, and we're gonna end up paying many thousands over what would be necessary.
I'm good with it.
I'll move that we approve the PSAP project management agreement with Ritter Strategic Services, pending review of the county attorney.
I'll second.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. So what we'll have to do when Greg has a chance to look at it, so you'll coordinate with him, probably a week from today.
Sure.
Then, once he says okay, then I can sign it.
Okay, I'll get it to you whenever, well, Greg already has it, so just waiting on his review.
As I said, I don't think he'll change much, but.
Sure,
it'll-
I don't doubt
It's
for
the
a second.
safest way to do it.
Yep,
Anything else today?
that's all I've got today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You good, or you need a moment?
No, I'm good.
Good.
I'm good.
Great information.
Tom and Megan, let's do it.
They're right over. Tell us about it.
Hi.
Morning.
Morning.
Thank you.
So, just to kind of give you a brief update of where we're at, or a brief synopsis. So there is a grant that is available, that came available. It's called the Burn Grant. I'm gonna let Megan explain to you a little bit more what the Burn Grant is, and then we'll kind of go into what we're looking for.
Yeah, so the Burn JAG grant, it's a justice grant for law enforcement, corrections. It is annually renewed, but it's ideally a 5-year grant, starting with 2 years of full funding, and then a step-down system, 75, 50, 25 for the following 3 years. And it can be used to support, again, law enforcement, corrections, the justice system. It's through the Indiana Criminal Justice Institute. And so there are some exclusions in terms of what it cannot support. So things like vehicles, fuel, luxury items, but it can support evidence-based prevention, intervention, strategies as identified by the county.
So what we looked at, or what we are proposing, is to apply for this grant in a hope to get a social worker, therapist, counselor on staff for the sheriff's office. And then the county you guys would have to basically, right now, is approve a position, because there is no position for that. So we kind of wanted to just make sure that you understand what the grant would be used for, if you feel that we can apply to that. We have a lot of questions at this point right now. Myself and Megan and Dana and Chief Deputy Monterez, we sat down a couple of weeks ago and discussed what our thoughts were. Actually, Megan and Dana had some good thoughts. I never really understood how it would work having a counselor on staff. But I like the idea. I think it's got benefits for our deputies. I think it's got benefits for the criminal justice system in a whole, and it's got benefits for our county. And I see it, I know Dana, and I got 2 officers that are going to training this afternoon, tomorrow, and Wednesday to learn a little bit more on how it can be incorporated into law enforcement. In my head, and I think in these ladies' heads, I think we know that it can be, but we obviously have questions, or at least I have questions on exactly how it's going to be implemented. And that's kind of why I'm sending 2 guys to training, and I know Dana's going to the training also. We were on a limited time to get the budget in, or the grant in, so we're kind of looking for your approval to say, yes, we can approve a position if we get the grant. And then we're going to go to the council next Monday, which will have a little bit more information because of the training that they're going to this week. So, what else?
Yeah, I think whenever we talked a little bit, Sheriff, he'd said that he'd reviewed the call sheets and that there's definitely a need for some sort of co-response, whether it's, an officer coming on scene and identifying a need for a social worker to also join them. Also, our court data shows that over 50% of our criminal charges that are filed with the court annually are substance related. And so what that could look like with a social worker involved in law enforcement would be that, the officers kind of clearing that situation and a social worker potentially coming on site after and speaking with them. What are your needs? Where can and providing that assessment, but then also warm handoff to the next service provider. Things like LifeSpring, it would require a lot of partnership with, for example, CASA, if there's children involved. If, she comes on site and someone starts to disclose some sort of child sexual abuse, there would be partnership then with the forensic interviewers. And, just linking people to the next resource so that there's this warm handoff where nobody's just sitting and wondering what happens next, essentially. We're linking people to services earlier in the process.
A lot of times, too, that some of these services are not given out because it's nothing criminal. So when we respond, it doesn't, I'm looking at it as, it may not be a criminal interaction that law enforcement is there, and it's just something that we can say, hey, counselor, can you check that out today, the next morning or whatever? And maybe there's some resources that they can provide that we don't have the knowledge to or the connection to that she would be able to provide. So it doesn't always have to be criminal, and I think that's where it's going to benefit the county. Something that comes to my head is a domestic situation where when we're there, it wasn't criminal yet, so there was no criminal charges, but just maybe a follow-up could prevent that from happening. I mean, some of it is, you'll never know. You'll never, ever know that we helped or didn't help or whatever the case may be. But I do believe that there's a need. And I think we all see that there's a need for that kind of service.
Can you say again, some of this need will be on the street, so to speak, or in people's homes or out and about in the community, and then another portion of the job would be to work within the facility? Can you say that?
Yeah, I think it could be like, I have substance abuse counseling going on in the jail, so I don't necessarily know that this person would go over to the jail and be connected with an inmate over there. However, I do believe that that person has the ability to connect to them on the outside. So eventually I could see that if that person ever does come to jail, they might be more open to who they know versus someone that they don't know. So I'm not gonna say never in the jail, but I think it's one of those where, yeah, I could see it both ways. I mean, quite honestly, I could see it for employees going to a tough call, you know, a death scene or whatever. I think that person would be beneficial to our employees also. I know that we have the EAP system, but I also know that there's some people that don't use that. But yeah, I do believe that it could be both. I mean, I don't necessarily think that person would always go out to the scene. I think it may be more sometimes where you would want to bring them into the office and have more of a controlled talk. Again, I think there's a lot of questions we have right now. Hopefully that we'll get some answers this week.
I think as I mentioned last week when I talked to both of you a little bit, I approve it as a concept, but I don't think it's fully baked. So once we had it, we'd have to know exactly what we were approving before we could say we agreed to proceed. I don't think you need the position created before you apply for the grant. Because like I always tell people, when they come in, and I said it to 4D earlier, you come in and you have a need and the money to pay for the need, it's a lot easier to say, help. Yes, we can do that, we can help. So I think I would have to see it more fully baked so we know what we're approving, and I think it's a fine idea. And I think the other thing that I mentioned, part of this income tax for corrections that we're supposed to add, or that came in, part of it's supposed to be used for things like this. And if the two of you look at that money and you say, out of everything in the world that we could get, this is an ask that we would have to use some of those funds, I couldn't, or I wouldn't want to oppose that. Does that make sense? Because part of it is for rehabilitative services is the reason for the income tax. It's not just for putting bricks and mortar up there, it's just to help people. So
I definitely think that we would have to, you're right, like this is very much, hey, there's this grant opportunity, we kind of want to apply for it. Is anybody like so opposed that we shouldn't even work, waste our time? We're definitely going to have to consider, of course, wage range and classification and all of those things. So definitely at this point, I'm not saying, can you please create this position? But knowing that there is some sort of interest, at least in learning more, learning how we can match or double some of our CNR tax dollars for this project, I think through a federal grant is just, it's a cool opportunity that doesn't just come up super often.
when you put it in, do you have to say, we believe that we can find an appropriate staff member at this price?
I'll have to put in a budget, yes. It'll have to be, it'll be a proposed budget. Year one will just be no match because you don't have to have match. But eventually you kind of have to have a plan for what the budget would look like whenever you do have to make up the 25, 50, and 75% eventually to the 100%
We
sustainment.
had a burn grant years ago when we started the drug court, and it was got started and then you had to take it over.
Is that burn with a B?
BYRN.
BYRN.
B-Y-R-N.
It's that
Yeah, no,
person's name.
I think the concept is good. I think the way you've explained it, it could be very beneficial. The question I was sitting here thinking about and you addressed it a little bit, Megan, about the connection or the handoff of, to Life Springs or some other agency. My question initially was, are we duplicating what we should be getting from Life Springs? And do you feel like we're getting everything that we should be getting, or we could be getting from Life Springs? We pay quite a hefty fee to them for mental health services in the county. And I know there's a lot of feeling throughout the state from other commissioners that I talk to throughout the state that they are not getting the services that they think they should be getting from their provider. I'm not hearing that so much from Life Springs as I am from up north elsewhere, that they're not getting the services from their provider that they think they should for the, what is the number,
$380,000.
$380,000 dollars that we pay annually for their services.
But in fairness to them, we're not paying that so that they serve Du Bois County as a unit. That's for community services.
It's not, right, it's not services provided to criminal justice, you're right. It's total Du Bois County services. But anyway, I would hate to say, well, Life Springs, we find them and I'm not putting words in your mouth or anybody's mouth, but we find it difficult to work with, so we're gonna go elsewhere and find what we need, get our needs elsewhere. And we'll pay both bills, but we'll get our needs over here. So I wanna be careful with that.
And I can speak from a community correction standpoint that I feel as though we do have a really good partnership with them and they're providing services and they're getting our people in really quickly now. And we meet with them monthly and we're able to staff our shared cases. I feel like we work through a lot of our problems. In reference to this position specifically, I'm going to speak for myself, but I think I definitely see a benefit in having the position owned and supervised by the sheriff and embedded in that department as opposed to a LifeSpring therapist or a LifeSpring staff member, being at the LifeSpring office and then being that person to co-respond. I think that will go a long way in terms of partnership, buy-in, working together. I that's how I see it anyways.
I agree.
Okay.
How does it work with temporary? Like if we said, what does it take to be a temporary employee versus a full committed long-term position?
It's how you classify the position, I guess. It kind of would be handled like seasonal or there is temporary in there in the classification.
So yeah, I guess find out, I think you know where I stand. If you both said this is a need, this is where some of that correction rehabilitative fund should go, I don't think would be opposed to it. Because otherwise you'd be coming, hopefully asking for something else, something different. And at a minimum, you get this grant, you try it for a year. This person is sitting around, this man or woman is sitting around all week and we're getting some benefit, maybe it's not worth it, maybe the county shouldn't invest in it, maybe you don't want to, it's not something you feel is in your role, and we find that out. But as far as getting it started initially, I wouldn't have a problem with them moving forward with the grant with my support.
Yeah, and I feel the same way. I think the concept is a good one, and any help we can get in that area of mental health for the community is a positive thing. And let's see what happens with the grant, and then we'll go from there.
Sounds great.
Thank you. You're up, Mr. Malinowski.
Terrific.
Only 30 minutes late.
That's all right. Happy to be here. Actually, we were talking, my wife and I came down yesterday, enjoyed beautiful Patoka Lake, and the hospitality at the Hampton Inn next, down the road here. So great, it's always fun to visit. Okay, good morning, Charles Malinowski, President, Malinowski Consulting, also known as Melcon. It is so good to be here when you know how to pronounce my name. What we're talking about this morning is a couple things. There's a program for refund of excise fuel tax that I want to give you an overview. Had a really good meetings with the highway department staff, and we did our initial review to qualify that how they're doing business there, whether it's the fuel reports and the invoicing, the technical requirements for the Indiana Department of Revenue are met. So that's all good to go there. And then I also have a proposal to work with the county on this program to get that refund back to the county and associated very limited power of attorney on this. So what we're talking about is I think almost all states in the country have a program to refund fuel taxes on diesel fuel or gasoline for uses that are not related to roads. So the state of Indiana has excise taxes. Presently, it's 53 cents a gallon on diesel fuel and 32 cents a gallon on unleaded gasoline. And you're aware that that's the major funding of state, county, and local roads. And in that process, whether you're, it doesn't matter whether you're government or any other kind of not-for-profit or profit, everybody has to pay excise fuel tax, with some exception at the pump. At the pump, everybody has to pay. What happens is that you get a refund for how you use the fuel in that particular piece of equipment or vehicle. So there's two things that are going on here. There's a 100% excluded. So this would be off-road equipment in your highway department. That would be a grader, a roller, a bulldozer, a dumper, or what we call proportional use, like a dump truck. If you think of the dump truck having a single fuel tank that powers not only the wheels that wear out the road, that's where the tax comes, because we have to pay to maintain that road. It also drives the dump. According to the state of Indiana, 23% of that fuel in that shared tank, whether it's unleaded or diesel, drives the dump. So you get a refund of the tax on that percentage related to that piece of equipment. And it varies. So if it's a dump truck or a sweeper or one of the things that you don't have, but maybe the city does. You've seen these super sucker trucks. They're very large. Those are at 90%. So it depends, again, on how that energy is being used by that shared fuel tank, how you get a refund. The neat thing about this program for counties, and in particular highway departments, the refund goes back to who or what fund paid for that taxes. So we've been able to, as we go through the process, determine how much of that refund, we know what the amount is, and we can break it down for the county auditor to make sure how to split that money between the highway fund and the general fund. So it's, again, it goes back to, now if the highway, if there was some other fund, would probably not happen here, that some other fund that the highway department would use to pay fuel on the fuel taxes, it would go back to that. So that's not your case here. So kind of giving you that overview. So you follow that program, and you may have even, I think Commissioner Elmer, I talked to you, meant to your ear on this a while back. So any questions or kind of the overview on how that works? Okay.
Your dump truck example, the 23% to power the dump. There could also be a proportionate use when that truck is not on the road, but being used off-road.
The state doesn't make that distinction. It's if it were not titled to be on the road, then it could be considered completely off-road. So so as far as the dump truck goes, we don't have to think about, and we're not allowed to make that distinction that, oh, if it's off the road in the morning, and we put in 40 gallons of diesel fuel on it, we would get that whole 43 cents back, not 23% of 53 cents. So it does not work like that. And that would be extremely difficult to track.
Well, you almost have some kind of electronic or logbook tracking.
Yeah, you could. One of the things that we found, so we've been doing this for about 3 years, and what it does, it tunes up the reporting process of how you're already doing things. So to go to that next step, and when I say that, we haven't found, right now we have 27 clients that we're doing this for across the state. And we found that there's some honest recording entries. And we've helped those entities do a better job in recording how those numbers are entered into the system. To go to the step you're talking about would take a lot of effort on the county employee. It would be something to take a look at. I don't think that's the way you actually work. I don't think there's that much time that a dump truck is off the road, because that's what we're really talking about. Where the county is going to make its money is on dump trucks in the highway department, and then it kind of goes down from there. So there are other, so if you put a snowplow, as an example, on one of the pickup trucks, that becomes a snowplow. And that's only 10% refund. So kind of in your scenario, we have to figure out, and we this is the art of that. We have to figure out when the pickup truck is a snowplow. And usually we can tell if on January 1st at 2 a.m. you're getting filled up with unleaded or diesel fuel, you're probably out pushing snow. Those are the things that we've checked with the superintendent, and whoever our contact is but that's kind of in that scenario. When is it not what it is, or 100%? And it's pretty difficult to track. But that's always, so in that scenario, it's in the system. We'd have to go to the next level, and could be challenging. But if the return is there, it might be something to discuss.
Yeah, no.
Okay, good. The other overview that I wanted to also include in this is that a really good system process that at this point we can go back 3 years. The county can go back and recover 3 years of uncollected refunds, so left on the table, as we say, and certainly collect current. The reporting requirements are flexible. We like to report on a quarterly basis. It keeps all of us on a good track to not forget anything, to remember to send the reports, pick the reports up. If there's any new equipment that comes in, new vehicles, we pick it up within a short window, within 3 months, to make that determination. So from the county standpoint, the payback is really going to be with the highway department. There are some other agencies we talked about. Well, I'll say one of the really good things about how you do fueling and fuel reporting in Du Bois County is that you have a central dispensing fuel system, and the fuel reporting is right on. So as an example, community corrections, the van that the community corrections uses, that is considered public transportation, and the state of Indiana gives you 100% back on that unleaded excise fuel tax. Also, if you think about the power tools, the blowers, chainsaws, lawnmowers, that community corrections would be using when they're out doing their thing, that's going to be a small amount. But that technically is 100% refundable. So that's the things that we would go after. But again, the big one's gonna be really, it's the dump trucks.
Steve, does the sheriff's department, do they fill up with you guys or do they fill up elsewhere?
They do.
100% there?
Let me touch on that. The sheriff department, when you look at the patrol cars or SUVs that they use, that fuel tank is not being used for anything other than powering the vehicle. Now, you have the lights and the air conditioning and all that, but there's not another piece of equipment that's taking significant energy out of the fuel tank that's not being used to power yourself down the road. So you could look at that. Some law enforcement agencies have the mobile command center. So that RV, that could be, there's a percentage you could use that. That would be on one of the few instances. Surprisingly, the jail transportation van is public transportation. So if that's in, you don't want to go in that public transportation, but that is an option to pick up. But again, it's compared to the big users, the sheriff department, 90% or more of that fuel, just how they do their business, how they use the vehicles and the fuel, it's just not going to be.
I think my thought on it for both the sheriff's department and our ambulatory services, we own the county ambulances, there's a lot of idling.
Yes.
So I didn't know if that meant anything.
Yeah, well, now, it kind of goes in with
Like if you
Commissioner
take an
Elmer.
ambulance to a local event, like they do the backyard movies, the ambulance sits there idle for 2 hours.
Well, yeah, or the
For some
football
amount of
game.
time.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's fine. And then my other question was, what percentage of that 43 cents that you talked about earlier does the county get back for road improvements or?
Okay. So of the 53 and 32 cents a gallon.
If you're not involved and
okay.
the state comes.
Sure. Yeah. No. So of that refund. So again, the refund depends again on a percentage, and we have I can give you the actual form, but there's a chart back here that lists all the proportional usage, whether it's a bookmobile, a carpet cleaning van, a dump truck, fire truck, etc. So whatever that percentage is, you get the 53 or 32 cents. What's really interesting to understand from financing in county government or even city government is that the roads distribution annually from the state of Indiana, one of the things that this is so important for you folks to participate in is that whenever the state distributes in excise tax refunds to local government, it comes off. It's the first thing in the formula that comes off of the distribution. So as an example, Bartholomew County, they don't participate in this. And you don't right now. So, but Steuben County, way up north, they get theirs off the top, and then and it's not much comparatively to the $50 or $60 million in that road distribution. But the fact is that Steuben County is getting theirs, Carmel is getting theirs, Scott County, Scottsburg is getting theirs. You're not, and others. So, but all you need to do is fill out the form and get the money back.
I guess maybe I didn't word it correctly. The county probably out of every dollar that goes up there gets 7 cents of a distribution or something. I'm saying no refunds. I'm just talking about our regular funding. And what you're doing has zero to do with whatever we're getting anyway.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it. Yeah. So how much?
I guess if we get $1 back through you.
Yeah.
You keep 50 cents, we get 50 cents.
Something like that.
Does that mean that $1 that was sitting at the state that we would have got draw off of, there's now $1 less, that our percentage would come out of to come back here? Am I making any sense? Because every year the state collects these funds.
Right.
They collect $1 at the state.
Right.
The county gets whatever, a number of cents.
Yeah.
Does that $1 now, is that $1 only 99 cents because we
Are they
took a
making an
refund?
adjustment because we're getting a refund? I think that's what you're trying to say.
That's the question.
No, in that scenario, because that's what I explained, is that you are actually, in that dollar, you're getting 99 cents because you're not claiming. Everyone else who is claiming gets that amount up on top before the distribution. So your distribution, whether you participate in this or not, your dollar amount is going to be the same. But what's going to happen is that the pool, or I would say the percentage of what you're getting statewide is going to be the same. It's just what dollars that are available to start with are going to be taken off the top. So if you get yours up on top, the icing off the cake, then there's less cake to go around, and that's kind of where you're at right now.
Not only are we getting the distribution from the counties who are not doing this.
Yeah.
We're getting a share of that. Part of this excise tax goes to NDOT as well, isn't it?
Correct. Yes. Yeah, again, that's part of, that whole big formula.
So getting it off the top means NDOT is not going to get as much.
Sure. Yeah. But in our scenario here, we don't, it's hard to tell what the refund's going to be until we actually do it. We know that the process, we have a system, it makes it easy for the highway department, it's easy on the auditor's office, as easy as we can make it. And we're confident that it's going to be a moneymaker for the county, or I wouldn't be here today. But exactly what that dollar amount refund is going to come back, I'm not sure. And Commissioner Chad, you were right on, is that, so we submit the form for a quarter to the Indiana Department of Revenue. You get a refund, the county gets a refund for an actual paper check of $1. We will then come back and bill you the 50 cents in half of our fee. And yeah, that's a big picture. But our fee is capped too, so.
I know you don't want to give us an exact figure. Are we looking at $1,000 or $100,000? Where are we closer to on this range of?
I would say that you're probably looking at something between $4,000 and $6,000 of total when we submit the form, total refund back to the county, and your net's going to be somewhere between $2,000 and $4,000
annually.
Annually, yeah. But again, submitted on a quarterly basis.
Those are typed in there. Yeah, so that's just typographical there, and that's.
Yep. And then I looked it up.
What is the position of the highway department, Mr. Berg?
To me, it looks like a pretty good deal because it's money that we can get refunded back that we hadn't before. Any of these refunds is basically gonna be, documented off of our billing statement that we get from the vendor where we purchase our fuel, and then our fuel system divides everything out, how much highway consumes, how much community corrections consumes, EMA, everybody who comes out, the EMS as well. I think ambulances are refundable for a large part. So
yes, it was a short
and those go back to those units who are actually paying that bill. We'll do a split bill with, if it's Ackerman Oil, they'll do a split bill where everybody pays what they used for that portion of time. So everybody's gonna get back something.
One follow-up on that, just one follow-up on that, is that your parks department does not use the highway fueling system. So they're kind of an outlier. So in these kinds of processes, we've, to tell you the truth, we don't pick up any parks departments. They're either in the city or in the county. They're surprisingly very low return there. And it might be just that the reporting information's not there. It's something, certainly, we can have a discussion with the Parks Department, and happy to include it in the umbrella here to optimize. Our goal is at a contingent contract, we want to make that number as high as possible. We certainly want our fee to hit the cap, but we want to get more than that. We want to get beyond that cap. So, we have a little typo.
So the park would be in,
Yeah, 'cause they
We're-
don't generate.
they don't.
And they have a very limited amount that they use,
So, well, yeah. So if you were, the commissioners were to approve this agreement, I want to touch on that. We would have a discussion with, if you get introduced to the Parks Department and say, hey, we'd like to, talk to you about this, review your fueling system, your fueling records. It might be something, yeah, whether it's there or not, we'll try to include it. We like having one point and good people to work with too, I have to say. That's one of the nice things about being in business for ourselves, is that we get to choose where we want to work. And we've had great, and Steve.
Steve, Michaela, Brent.
Yeah. So, yes.
And I think this is a question for Steve and saying in, we're going to spend some resources providing you the information that you need to do what you need to do. Is that going to be a large amount? I mean, we're not talking about a large amount of money here, so any resources that we put into getting that money comes off of that total.
Well, let me answer and I'll let you correct me if I'm wrong. One of the things that we like to do when we go on site is see how you're actually doing the business. So Ann does all of this reporting to split the bill for county departments and including the hospital ambulance service. So the documentation is already there. She's already split it out. What's good about our system is that we get the electronic report in a PDF, and then we manipulate the fuel report as we need it. So we make those splits and a determination of what little hole it needs to go into. So Ann doesn't need to do anything more than she's doing right now, other than send us a copy of the invoices and the electronic, so it's all electronic invoices and the PDF of the fuel report on a monthly basis. So I think that, yeah.
And when the auditor gets the check and has to pay the statement, there's not a great deal of,
We just we'd have to budget for where we paid it out of.
not a great deal of time put in.
We already do some work with them and it's pretty simple. We do send them an email once a month and that's how you use.
Yes,
It's
since
not-
2011.
Forty stuff.
It's not a concern of yours that all of a sudden you're doing a lot more work.
Well, to jump in, the hardest problem that our counties have is cashing a check. So that's what we want to do. We want to make it easy for everybody. And speaking of that, this is the only service that we provide that we ask for a very limited power of attorney. With the Title 4D program in the clerk's office and in the auditor's office, we're answering questions on behalf of the county without that power of attorney. The way the Department of Revenue works is that they want that document to have a discussion with us. And why? Because there might be sometimes when our numbers with the state don't jive and they have to they're asking some sort of question. And they're usually, what we've seen in the 3 or 4 years we've been doing this, they're minor amounts related to the quantity, the number of gallons that we've picked up. Sometimes they go up, sometimes they go, but they've been very small. But this allows us to collect the data, fill out the report, submit it to the highway department while we're actually submitting paper, because the Department of Revenue will not take electronic reports. We send them paper copies of all of this stuff. And so we can control that from our end and know when it was submitted, so that within 30 or 45 days, if we don't get an email from the auditor's office or from the highway department knowing that you got paid, that's something that we're going to check into. Hey, did you get the check? And in some cases, depending on the taxpayer ID, the check might go someplace else, or it's a new thing. Especially that first cycle, we want to make sure that the system is in place, and like Title 4D, it becomes routine clockwork. Again, it's easy as possible for you.
Does your company primarily work with government agencies, or do you work in private industry as well?
Interesting, through this fuel tax program, we've just started to bust out, shall we say, of Title 4D, child support enforcement at the county level, cost allocation plan in the auditor's office. So at this point, we're about 70% of what we do is local government, counties or cities. We've now picked up some ambulance services that are quasi-government. Well, it's kind of like we are in discussion with Director Ryan
Young.
At your hospital to take what the highway department bills them and do the same refund we're talking about here. Completely different. Let's not get, that's going to be always separate, although I know there's a connection there financially.
So when you send us money, you tell us how to allocate that.
Yep.
This is highway, this is Cambridge, this is
Yes.
ambulance, whatever.
Yes, yes. Yeah, typically, yeah, we will know. And what it's gonna be, is gonna be how much is highway, how much is general fund. But we're not gonna split it down by sheriff or EMA or, and I'm not sure where, is the parks in the general
No,
fund? They're in their own fund, yeah. So, yeah, so.
The reason I ask that, we have a company here in town that does the same work.
Yes.
But I've talked to them, and I don't think they're interested in this level. They're in industry and out there with the big clients, the 800 trucks out there
Sure.
somewhere.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing.
Well, and that's one of the things that, as a company, we try to focus on, number one, educating everyone we come in contact with. And when I visited your highway department or anybody else, one of the first things they said, here's the form, here's the instructions in the back of it, here's the phone number and email address for department. These are good people to work with. Some of the best at the state level that I've ever encountered in my career. So and I can tell you, Marshall County Highway Department had a similar setup with a centralized fueling system for everybody in the county. And they said, thank you very much, we'll do it ourselves. So, some days I'm, my goal. So if our goal as a company is to educate you and introduce this program to you and encourage you to participate, then by all means, it is something you can do on your own. One of the things that, and I mentioned an agreement, we have an agreement. I don't like calling it a contract. It's as close as I can get to a handshake. I'd highly recommend that we go forward with doing the current claim going back to January 2019 to get a windfall, as much as it's going to be. But getting that initial amount in, seeing how we work together, Ann likes working with us, that's great. And likewise, if we're getting the reports, we've had some counties that's been difficult to get reports out of, and we've moved on. But you can cancel, we can cancel our agreement at any time for any reason with no if, ands, or buts. So there won't be any penalties. So you decide that this is something, however you want to go, in-house or not do it, by all means, that's your decision to do that. And we want to give you that flexibility. But we do go out to, I believe this was 2022.
Did you provide this like a year ago to the highway department? Because it has 2020 dated on two locations on here, or is
The
that?
county attorney didn't like the date on it.
Interesting. We did start, I think my first visit on this was a year ago.
Okay, so
almost that date.
this is probably the agreement you gave to or initially started with them before.
Well, it shouldn't be.
He reviewed it Friday late. He didn't like the date and he didn't like.
Oh, you don't like the B?
No capital B.
Well, we can definitely get that changed.
Yeah.
Let me see, that's what I did. And the one dated October 14th with the capital B. Yeah, this is Interesting. We prepared a proposal based on a great meeting we had. I said, let's go and do this. I didn't think that we sent it to you. So I thought this was internal. So this is not the one, this one dated October 14th, which is basically the same thing. We have tweaked the agreement a little bit, but I'm sure county council wouldn't have any problem with it. Especially the dates are what's most on the last page. Really, this is our contract. And I'll give that. So there's 2 copies there. And then there's the power of attorney also. That's been already.
Would you mind just giving this to Greg and he can give it a final look over just in case there are any differences? I'm fine with moving forward. I think it's a fine thing to give it a shot. It doesn't sound
And the
like.
power of attorney, Greg's the county attorney.
Yes,
sir.
Yeah, so.
He's just not here today, he's not.
Yeah.
Sure.
And what is, I know you said it's as close as you can get to a handshake.
Yes.
So we end up saying, oh, Charles, we don't like him after all. And a year from now, we want to get out of it, we're just out of it. I don't know, I didn't see.
You tell us that we don't care the reason, if you want to not do business on this anymore, and I'll tell you, it's the same thing as our agreement with the clerk's office since 2011. It's the same near handshake, that now, that is open-ended with the clerk in the Title 4D. We don't have an end date on that. And since 2011, we haven't changed our fee. So, and we love working with the clerk's office, good people. Yeah, this, because of the nature of this filing, we're liking that. So you can reevaluate it. So it would naturally come up at the end of next year, a year from now, just, oh, let's, how did this go? What did we get? Is it worth it? Do we like working with these people? All those things.
So pending, I would say pending county attorney approval, I'm fine to move forward with it. I'll make a motion that we go forward with the agreement pending review of attorney.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. So
What we
looks
will,
like there's a single signature for the county on there. We can, if you don't mind, put it on for 5 minutes at the next meeting, so we just officially sign it here. Commissioner Hussler, if you have a problem, then we'll deal with that. It was nice meeting you, thanks for coming in. Identification numbers?
that's, and then somebody, commission president authorized that.
So we'll bring it back to the next meeting for all the signatures and then
Yeah,
we'll just get back to you.
And yes, whenever, we'll
If
connect.
once that B fixed on there, I'll just reach out to you.
Yes.
It shouldn't make any difference.
It'll
The
be-
date is
It'll
the
be,
main thing.
yeah, well, the date and term.
Thanks, Charles.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you so
I'll
much.
see you
It's
again.
always a pleasure working with you. And,
Okay.
How you doing, young man? I see you.
Susie,
Chad, how you doing?
We'll get back with
Looking good.
See, you better know when you give them.
Just a laugh.
Chase you
Just a laugh.
They got enough of salespeople for today. All right. Thanks again. Do we meet? I'm bringing them. Okay. Great. So, we'll be in contact. We'll wait. Don't do anything on your end, have any, and do anything. We'll wait till we get his contract first, so, because if I can have that in place. We'll, figure out where we're going.
somebody said somebody else, is this perfect or is it better? No, his is fine.
There's crazy people on the road.
Is that right?
There
Just drive around them. Catch any fish, Steve? Catch any fish?
Few little ones Friday.
Last week up in Mississippi, Lake Grenada, crawling fishing, remember that? The wind picked up, and changed on me, and we had a guy, I caught 3 keys, 15 smaller ones. Not what I was expecting, that. I tell you what, driving through Arkansas. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we finished last week.
Oh, yeah.
So TH found 2 errors. I was like, let me look at it.
Oh, I still call you.
Yeah, the precincts have to be connected. And Bainbridge. It's like the southern half of Jasper.
I've seen them, but I haven't.
All right, let's keep rolling, please. We've got agreements with Matrix Integration. This is a recurring service agreement. Commissioner Ramos, we've talked about it before. We were given this back in September. The other firm that I had worked a little bit with, the auditor, they didn't submit a counter offer. They said that they would need to do some deeper investigation into our system and things like that before they were comfortable with making a bid. My understanding with this agreement is it's a little better of a deal than what we got last year even. I think they've lowered their end user unit price and have added in some additional things that they're going to be looking at for us. So I feel comfortable with moving forward with this. The agreement term is 3 years at the same price, so we don't have to look at this again next year to wonder if we're getting a good deal or not. It's gonna be in line for the next 2 years. Do you have any thoughts on it, or would you like to look at it again?
Well, we talked about it several times, and I think I'm good with it. I think they're a good partner. They've been a good partner, with us, and, we've talked about, would we be better off doing some of this in-house? But I think this is the wise way to go.
And with Commissioner Hostetter, there would be some work that we would have to do to determine if it's a good idea to bring on an in-house person, and I think there's more to it than just. So if he wants to take action towards that end, I would support that. Or if I found time to do it, I wouldn't mind either, but I think for now, this is our best motion.
I agree.
You have a comment?
No,
Okay.
they've been a good partner, I can't complain, and when I do complain, they fix it.
Okay. So I'll make a motion that we approve the recurring services agreement with Matrix Integration.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? No? All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye. Motion carries. Steve and Brent, what is, hey Steve, on that last gentleman that was here, have you reviewed that paperwork like he said? Is it something that you looked at and you're like, oh, this doesn't seem too bad, we could do this? Or did you look at it and think, he was giving up 50% of whatever we're getting, it's substantial, even if it is, I guess, can we get $1,500 a quarter worth of time out of somebody to do this? Is it worth us doing it or not?
I think it is, at least initially, because he can get us set up. And then we can go back 3 years and collect what we've already paid. We can get that back. And
I definitely see that value, but I meant the going forward reporting. You just want to kind of do it for a year and see what you think.
I think so, and just let him get it set up so we can see the process. And if we've got time to do it on our own, I mean, we're already generating the information to give to him. You know, maybe it's something we can pick up and do our own. And it sounds simple enough just to let him know, and then they'll back off, and then it'll be us, and we'll submit. So it's.
I don't want to put another piece of work on somebody's back, but if you make $1,500, say it ends up being $1,500 a quarter, I don't know that it'd be that much, but if it was, I don't feel so bad about doing it because there's a good enough return on it.
Now, that cap is $1,500 for the entire year. So if we're talking about a quarter, the rest of that, we would be getting back 100%.
See, I think that's what we said initially, but I think his agreement says per quarter.
It does say quarter.
Yeah, at first, because I thought it was for the year, but I think his agreement says quarter.
The fee for the service shall be no more than $1,500 for each quarter the reports are prepared.
For each quarter.
Whatever we get, we share 50/50.
So that wasn't your understanding. Yeah, here it is. Fee computation for each shall share equally in the recoveries for each quarter reported up to $3,000. So if the refund was $1,000, it'd be $500 in his quarter.
Okay.
So that makes it even more attractive to do it on our own if possible. And if it was a deal where it was 20%, that's different than half.
Yeah, I bet you can call it right now, so you change that.
Right. So we're gonna talk about it again at the next meeting, so if there's anything you wanna look at or have any questions on between now and then, we can do that. Okay. Recorder, disaster recovery.
Right there. Greg said it's the same contract you signed before.
Been in place since 2019, cost paid by recorder annually $602. Greg looked at it and said no changes are necessary. So we would be approving the recorder to sign it, because there's no place for us to sign. I think all this, if I remember correctly, this just is a backup of everything that we have here, so in case of a tornado that blows everything away, this is in a mountain somewhere, and you can get it all downloaded somewhere else.
Okay. And we already have this in place, and this
Yep.
is just a renewal?
Yep.
Okay.
Do it every year, as he said.
Okay.
I'll move that we approve the disaster recovery service agreement as it's been presented.
I'll second.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. So it says please sign and return, but there's no place for us to sign, so I'm just going to hand it to the auditor, and Jackie can sign it if she wants, if she needs something from me, she can ask. That comes to the end of our normal scheduled agenda. Do the two of you have anything?
I have something that I don't need a response from, but I wanted to share with you. You met last week and passed precincts,
Yes.
redistricting, and that's just an extra copy for you. I sent all that information to the election division and had conversations with Sean Scott with WTH and getting our electronic maps prepared. And he noticed something that I missed, and Greg Schneer missed. Land mass of precincts must be contiguous. What that means is they have to be connected by land. So we have two precincts in our county, Bainbridge 1 and Bainbridge 7. So it's the northern half of Bainbridge Township and the southern half. It's this part that's not in Jasper city limits, that are not contiguous. The southern half, or Bainbridge 1, has a small square that is off of the west side.
Along
That
400.
There are two voters, one household, two voters in that block. I don't have the specifics for the Bainbridge 7 precinct, because that will affect more voters between those two land masses.
Are you saying this is 7 and that's 7?
Yes, all of that pink. It's split at the top with Bainbridge 5 North and Bainbridge 6 North, I believe. 6 North and 5 North is the green and the light purple. And then Boone North Jasper is just on the very top. That's been cut off on the map. That's city limits. That little bitty yellow sliver, that is city limits. Those Bainbridge 7, the two big pink squares, cannot both be Bainbridge 7. So we are going to have to address that. I don't have the details on how to fix that. Indiana Election Division is going to review the paperwork I've submitted already, and they will come back with suggestions on how to amend things. I'm assuming they're going to catch this. If not, I have to have the discussion with her on how to fix it. It is. It has been like this before,
Been this way for a
and
while.
probably before the last.
Yeah, I don't know about
Census
10
was
years
done.
ago. I don't know about 10 years ago, but.
So on the second page, you'll notice the Bainbridge 1 of the little light purple square. Yes, that is the piece that's broken off of the rest of.
It used to be okay because you could count this piece as it connecting.
Yes, but that is Madison Jasper South is the light, I would call it blue. And then Madison, I think it's 1 is that darker blue. And then Madison North Jasper.
It's
So-
probably
So
okay
you're
to
talking
pull
this little
that
piece
for
here because
annex
it's cut off by that
road.
street.
Yes, because it's not,
We talked about
it's
that
not
little
in city
street,
limits, so
didn't
you
What?
we talked about that little street.
streamer right there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So we'll have to figure out where those changes, how we address that.
So why were those folks like on this one, if there's only the one household, what was the rationale?
I don't know. I don't know if this was something that was added later to city limits, and that's why it's split apart.
I'm sure that's what it is.
That's my
But
opinion, but
why
I don't have the
didn't, why
fact.
didn't they take that along with it? It's the Kirstein's farm is what it is,
So
right? It's like Kirstein's.
it's a park that lives there now. I don't know
Oh,
if they're the owners or if that's just part of that land mass.
I thought that was Todd's place.
Is that in the city?
No.
He's out.
The Bainbridge 1 that we're talking about is out of city limits. It's there's a John and Mary Park that live at that one address that's in that land mass. I don't know if they may not own that whole land mass, but my purpose is there are changes that will need to be made and we'll have to look at that. I have maps that show all the census blocks. You can't move it into city limit precincts because those are city limits, so it has to be.
So you have to call that little thing its own little.
It can't be its own precinct because it has to be no more than 2,000 and it has to be at least 600 voters to be its own precinct.
So we'll have to attach to a county.
It'll have to be attached to something
out
on the
here.
other side of
Non-city
it.
precinct.
Yeah, so that's, I'll get more details on Bainbridge 7 because that will affect more voters. But just start thinking about what I send you an email will be about Bainbridge 7 voters and what to think about, how to split that up. The questions I don't know is township rules, like that's all part of Bainbridge Township today. If you said you wanted to take that little square down off of Bainbridge 1 and add it to Madison, I don't know what the rules are because of townships. How does that affect, or is there a rule around townships?
You have your township trustee, you have your.
Could change that, yeah. So I don't know what that means to Bainbridge either, like Bainbridge 7 on the northern half, all the other Bainbridge around it is city limits. If you move that to something that's not a Bainbridge, or do you make your own, how does it affect what you're moving it to?
In the north, I would think the easiest would be to make a Bainbridge 8.
Right, but you have to have at least 600 voters. No more than 2,000, but must have at least 600. Precincts that have less than 600 today were grandfathered in, but to make a new one, you have to have more than 600. So I'll get those numbers on those specific land mass and those voters there. I mean, that was one suggestion. So just food for thought. I know you got plenty of other stuff to deal with yet today. I'll be back to talk about
So
it.
it's basically Bainbridge.
Bainbridge
7.
1 and Bainbridge 7. No matter what changes you do, they can all vote at any vote center. Just that's all I have. Thanks.
And on that vote center thing again, on election day, is it still anywhere you want? Or
It is
free?
election day that changed. If you didn't understand it yet, any open voting location, any Du Bois County registered voter may vote at.
So we kind of already
Early
had them,
or
just
election
not
day.
on election day, that's what's changed.
Right.
If you don't wanna go anywhere and you wanna stay at your assigned previous location, please go do so.
Not just election day, but any early voting any day. That's it.
Tell your friends.
Well, that stinks a little bit, but what about for the treasurer's office?
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, so we had been talking previously, we've been talking about getting a kiosk
Yes.
for payment, online payments, and we had talked about doing it at the, where the drop box is now.
Yes.
Okay. Mike Leesner had a great idea. He said, what about putting it in the doorway down here, like in that vestibule? Moving the door. So the door would become, it would be open all the time, the main door now, and we would move that security door to the inner door. So that's where people would key in to come in.
Like a fire door, where the fire alarm system is.
Correct. Yep, that door would become then the key door, the secure door. The other door would be open all the time. We put cameras out there so that you could, but then that kiosk could sit in there. And then also we would want a drop box in there as well. But the drop box then would be big enough that anyone could put anything in there. It wouldn't just be the treasurer's drop box, it would be anyone's drop box.
And is this remember the soda machine? Sometimes they used to be stuck in the wall and all you'd see was the face, or is this
No.
something that would stick out?
Freestanding, just plop it down there. It's like a 2x2 unit.
Is
It's
it like
not,
the size of the,
Yep.
a little smaller than this,
Yep.
right?
yes, same, yes. So it would just be there. And then next to it would be the drop box. So the doors would have to change. And also the alarm would have to then come inside,
Security alarm.
would have to come inside, but everything else could stay the same. So that would then eliminate the need to do an awning and change the building in any way. In fact, that drop box could be closed off then.
It's gonna take you 10 years for people to quit being mad that that's closed.
Well, they can't find it anyway. So I mean, really, this would be easier if we could say, it's in the annex, like, go to the annex. Because right now, when you tell them it's at the back end, on the corner of Sixth and Jackson, they cannot find it. So,
What was your comment?
I said, bring us a cost estimate of what it would cost to do that, change that door and the
okay,
security alarm may be more of an issue than the door, I don't know.
So we'd have to change the secure entrance from there to there, and we'd have to check the fire system to make, I don't know that thing is used.
It does-
There's a
it does
fire
not,
thing on the wall, an electronic system, where she wants to put this, that I don't think it has any use currently.
but also it's a freestanding thing that wouldn't, yeah, I don't think it would impact that at all.
Well, but vandalism, in other words, if that thing has to be secure,
It's locked right now, and it's very like I think, and there would be cameras out there. But yeah, because Scott and I have talked about all the scenarios.
What was the cost of this thing? 20 grand?
Yep. But then if we had it down there, we were gonna have to put an awning, because it has to be covered.
It's the other thing, before we even ever do anything, that 20 grand is gonna have to come out of county money somewhere.
so the renovation, if you will, or the altering of the entrance will inflate that consideration, whatever that, be 20 plus the
Right.
altering of the entrance.
And also, this has been approved, like the kiosk had been approved to come out of the money that was the CARES Act or whatever it's called. Because I know other treasurers have used that money for a kiosk.
It keeps people from interacting from one another.
When you say it's been approved, we haven't approved to go ahead and do it.
The state
The
has
state,
approved that money can be used for this as a way of,
the
yes,
CARES Act money is gone.
well, whatever,
ARPA,
yes.
ARPA, I mean,
What was the only one?
Yeah, any of that money that the government gave, the state has said that this kiosk you can use the funds for that. Because yes, it's keeping people from coming into the courthouse or like, yeah.
So we have to make a determination if it's something we even want to approve. I know the treasurer's in favor of the more electronic kind of things, the internet, more convenient, various payment options.
Yeah, because then people can pay 24/7 when it's convenient for them.
And it would be a deal where, is this one that gives you change?
No, well, it can if we set it up that way. I would not set it up that way. How I would set it up is if you want to pay cash, you can, but whatever overages would go advance payments to your next statement.
So if it's $100.05, you put 101 in, 95 cents goes to your next year's bill.
And it would be, yes, clearly, it would tell you on the screen, you're not gonna get any change back.
Or it gets
It's like the bucket out of the dim side, or the sides, you didn't get any change.
Right.
I paid extra for my trash.
Okay, and I
That
do
thing
want,
opens a little different than the bucket at the side.
I wanna mention
Yeah,
that
really.
this could also be used for other things. They can set it up that other departments could also accept payments on the same kiosk. I don't know that it's allowed, but if people wanted to pay child support, they could, or a parking ticket with us or whatever, they could. And it would do separate reporting, like, it has that capability to be used for multiple offices.
Right, you can hit a button that says county taxes or county
Child,
whatever.
yes, yeah, so it could be used for multiple things,
Can
not
it-
just,
Can it be shared with multiple, can be shared with the city of Jasper if we
Yep.
wanted to?
we could, and remember we approached them and they didn't want to do it? But yes, it could be, it definitely could be, people could pay their utility payments there, yep.
I don't know how I feel about it.
Yeah, I don't know either. As far as that location, if it's not expensive to change that location, that's a good location, but is the kiosk itself still something we want to do?
I guess I wonder too, as a standalone thing, I know people will steal ATM machines. I had one in the bar, and they'd mount it, they'd drill through the floor to hold it in. But if somebody wanted it, they could have yanked that damn thing over and stolen it. I don't know. They've done it other places. I just
Right,
try to look for the worst case scenario, somebody does something stupid.
right,
Have you,
and we'd have them on film because we'd have a camera in there, we could see
They
it.
break the camera.
No, that's true.
they had a camera when somebody was gonna plant a bomb in Washington DC back in January too, they still haven't got him.
It's true.
Um,
I have faith in our sheriff, he would for sure get it, for
Those
sure.
are finest people on it.
Yeah, who said it in Washington? See if we could even solve that one. I was gonna say something now.
Was it about the 20,000 or whatever for the machine and that, or was it something else?
Yeah, it was about the machine, but,
So if you remember.
other counties. You have, can you give us some, locations where it's being used and how successful it is?
Allen County has 3. That's just one county, but yes, I can give you a list of other
Preferably
counties.
a county more our size,
Okay,
if you could.
Okay.
And how successful it's been and.
Okay.
And that sort of thing.
yep, I can get that. Okay,
Again, I just hope it pays, you hope it pays for itself, so in some way.
well, it's doing a
Well,
service, aren't we supposed to be providing services for the public? That's where they can pay.
I don't know, maybe, again, I don't say that it's off the table, like without Commissioner Hosser here again, maybe. On that one again, will you put it for 5 minutes on the next agenda, just so we don't forget about it, I don't wanna keep pushing things
Right.
off. If it's gonna be, we're not gonna mess with it, then we just need to tell you we're not gonna mess with it, or if we are,
And I know the council is in favor of it. I mean, if that means anything.
for what reason, or what's their thinking on it?
Well, in the previous discussions that we've had with them, they think it's a good idea that it's, I mean, keeps people out of the courthouse, but it's also convenient for people to use, so.
I didn't know they,
Well, my listener's idea was like, hey, why don't you put it here? I mean, and then, I know the other people that I've talked to have said, they thought it was a good idea.
Sounds good. Yeah, so anything you can find about,
Okay.
between now to his question and to the, if you call, ask for, and say, what are you looking at with that?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, next up, we have Du Bois County, Indiana GIS limited use agreement between the county and Tyler Technologies. Again, I think this is one that we've done every year for a long time, hasn't it?
we do them as they request them, like different companies will request it, so then they do a limited use for each company. So we've done 2 or 3 of them. Yeah, we've done,
They're our
I think they're
assessing
doing it for a
partners.
school or something.
Oh, to be used by Greater Jasper
Yeah.
Community Schools.
I mean,
So if it was a business, they pay us a little something. In this case, there's no funds being transferred, right? It's just us. The way I always look at it is it's county's paying for it, or the public's paying for it, the public should be able to use it. So I'm in favor of moving forward. Do you have anything you want to talk about with it?
No.
I move that we approve the GIS limited use agreement.
No, second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Okay. Well, do you have anything you want to go over? Okay. So this one will take a few minutes here. I got a couple things. I just want to, I guess, update you and the public if anybody's watching or recording. The grant we had with SERS earlier for people with disabilities and community connections, that process of getting the Wi-Fi hotspots put up around the county, I wanted to provide an update on that because it's still in process. We'll just kind of go location to location. Smithville will be in Hayesville this week for the fiber install for the location that will be at the site, next to the site, but the park over there for that public Wi-Fi. The Holland location is complete. I haven't personally went over and verified that it's up and running, but the fiber is connected, so I believe the Holland portion is complete and running. Du Bois County Park was on hold until after this weekend because they had that Four Rivers event out there, and for some reason people out there said, please wait till after that. But that work will be done this week, I believe, at Du Bois County Park. SERS has their Wi-Fi, I believe, open. They did an expansion there, so if somebody wanted to pull out front of their area, they can do that. Also, SERS should have their lending library open in November. That is a place for people if you don't, people that utilize their services or others in the community. They have technology that they can lend to people with disabilities so that they can have connections. Also, they are working on their workstation, which would be an accessible workstation for people with either vision, motion, hearing, whatever the disability is. They'll have a workstation inside of their facility for people to use as well. So that
Open during regular business hours.
correct. The Bird's Eye location, we had a provider there, I believe it was Indiana Fiber. Indiana Fiber sold to Zayo, Z-A-Y-O, and we have an agreement with them and a timing in place with that, so that part will be in order as well. But for that lending library, just to clarify, this is a note from SERS. They said that they have, as of 10/15, they had devices, cases, screen protectors have been received. IT is working to configure and update all the iPads, and they anticipate those will be ready for lending November 1st. The accessible workstation is set up as of 10/1. They're awaiting the arrival of the printer and a desk chair. They also have to purchase and install a Zoom subscription for the PC.
she did send me the information so I can Submit a claim.
for a first claim, yeah. Yeah, so Holland is supposed to be done. The contract with PSC was signed August 30th. SERS facility, everything's done there, 10-1, fairgrounds. The contract was signed with PSC. As I said, we're working on that this week. Do you want any other updates on it, or just?
Just one question, the logging on, if you will, is it completely open? Or do you have to create a username, password, that sort of thing, or is it just, you pull up and your computer finds it?
It's similar to what you do when you use the city of Jasper, or most public things. You'll go in and your phone will say, would you like to connect to? In this case, it'll be called Du Bois County 1, Du Bois County 2, 3, or 4, just so we add a numbering system to define the different ones. And you would go up and if you hit, it'll bring you a splash page that'll say, you agree you're not going to do anything illegal. You understand that the county can't police what's on the internet. So whatever you find, you're on your own for what's out there. And if you agree to these terms, you can connect. And on that splash page, it shows our logo and the SERS logo.
Okay.
So I believe, I believe it's the same as signing up to any public Wi-Fi network. You say you want to connect, you don't have to have an account or a password or anything.
Okay, yeah. Sounds good.
And yeah, then there's a paper with the updates on it.
Okay.
Again, SERS has been a great partner. Melissa has just been wonderful with all the work she's been doing out there. So Melissa Sharp. So it's working out well, and I'm ready for it all to be done. So it's been some work. A question that I had: have you heard any updates on the Ready program? That was like very important for 3 weeks, and then now I haven't heard anything about it.
Yeah, no, I really haven't. I know that ROI is, they put together a list of projects. I forget, they've got 200 and some odd projects on the list. And they've submitted that. I think they're waiting for that initial grant approval to go ahead and develop the rest of it. What was it, 50,000 or something like that for the initial grant approval to move forward.
Planning or something?
Yeah, planning grant.
Okay. Brent, did you have any updates on the flooding issue in Du Bois or Grange? I know we talked about it briefly last time.
No, I do not. Not right now.
There's a piece of property, I don't know that I sent you any information on it, up by Patoka. Brent's looked at it, the county surveyor looked at it. I will, yes,
Can have that.
thank you.
She just wanted you to have the cost that they paid
For the neighboring property.
for the other big piece.
So a person, I'll just show you this, a person purchased all of this property over here. The lake, Patoka Lake is up in this area, so this adjoins USA property. And this is, what's that?
Woodland Hills?
Woodland Hills.
Okay.
So there's this piece, I don't know if you ever remember seeing it.
The Catholic Diocese owned it,
The
Yeah,
Catholic Diocese owned all this land.
and they sold it.
Terry Kleinhelter is the person's name who bought it, and he called me and asked about this county-owned piece here. So they looked, people looked into it for us, and in 1896, somebody, Isaac Bennett gave it to Adam Mesmer or something like that. It doesn't make any difference. We got it as a tax property back in 1995, so it's basically county property. Brett didn't find any utility or road usage issues of why we had it or would need it. The surveyor didn't really necessarily have anything that he could see of why it's a county benefit. It was probably just a situation where why keep putting it on the tax? He went through tax sales just to keep his area clean. He would be interested in buying it or assuming it or whatever the county would like to do with it. My idea is to give it to Mr. Schneier, and I think I already emailed him to say, what are our options? I don't want the county being on the hook to pay for 2 appraisals and sell it for the lower of them, and it's $1,000 piece of property. We paid paid $1,500 for the appraisals or something. So we would, I'm just asking him for some options.
The only question I would have, I mean, I agree, if we can only get rid of it and clean it up, that would be great. Since it does border those lots in Woodland Hills, is that an issue? Could that be an issue? Should it be an issue? I don't know. I don't know who those property owners are, it might be Toga Water. Toga Water and Sewer owns some.
Some of them are, at least two of them are. The only, and with being a subdivision, the lots have to be accessed. It's like you couldn't put a house drive out the back. They have to be accessed with an interior lot of the subdivision, or interior drive of the subdivision.
Yeah.
So there's really no benefit for them as a property owner that I could tell. I thought originally maybe the utilities ran in there somewhere and that's where it came in, but I don't think so. Especially considering it goes all the way back to 18 something, or 1980s, 1896,
1995.
yeah. So
No, like you said, let's take a look at it, and I wouldn't be opposed to moving forward with getting rid of it at some point.
Right.
I'd be happy if the person that wants it, if he's willing to pay for whatever appraisals we need and whatever survey, if we need a survey, if he's willing to pay for those things, I would rather it be held in private hands and he can start paying taxes on it.
I don't see any benefit to the county.
No, I don't either.
In keeping it.
I don't either. Based on research that was found, there's no benefit to us.
So I appreciate your work on it, Brent, and whatever.
How much is it? How many square feet?
0.6 acres, I think.
0.6.
Is what it's listed as.
Is that much?
Yeah, it's long.
That's pretty, it's pretty long.
Long.
It's only, what, 20 feet wide maybe,
Yeah.
but it's really long.
Right.
Okay, 15 feet wide, it looks like, by
What's that
324.
little L-shaped thing?
Mhm. So maybe 700 feet
It
long.
was a road or something at one time.
We were actually thinking, Kenny and I were, that it was maybe spring, there was spring in the area, and somebody used it to access the spring before the lake was there. So basically water was coming up, because that way, Kenny said he has seen that in the past. Kind of interesting, so so much water is pumping out right there, and that's where it cooled up, and that's where a person was able to get their water from.
Do we have to do anything because it does cross a county road? Or do we just automatically have?
I think there's dedicated right over that road. I don't know off the top of my head. I mean,
Otherwise, when we survey it, it'll have to be deeded in such a way that it says this, accepting that part. That's our road.
we can definitely do that, yeah, be a good idea.
Okay. Next up, this is probably the part that's most exciting to me, and I don't think I shared any of it with you yet. Mike Kleesner and I met with PSC, Du Bois REC and Orange County Fiber again on Thursday for a couple hours. And here's Joe, do you need Joe Henson's information? Just in case.
I think I have.
Sorry about that. Just in case you wanted it, I got that, so that you could, if anything that I bring up today, you have any questions, it would be something you could talk with him about as the REC president. So I'm just gonna kind of read over my notes just so I don't get anything crossed up here. We've been working on an agreement. If you remember the last time we met, there was a proposal of $4.35 million to help with make-ready work through the Du Bois REC that could benefit the Orange County Fiber and PSC and other providers by making sure that they have an appropriate path to hang their wires to get fiber optics to users. I believe the total number of structures served by this would be between 5,000 and 6,000 additional locations that aren't served by anyone currently. And in addition to these folks, I actually had a meeting half hour before meeting with them. So there's another firm there's another layer of next level funding that's coming out from the state of Indiana. So people had to have their preliminary bids in for those properties in September. They didn't put their final ones in January. So the homes that aren't served by this, there's still additional money being put into serving more people. So that's kind of, I can send you the one that had addresses on it, I believe. I sent you an email saying that there's people.
That's the Okra.
Yes, that's the one for the state.
Yeah.
So because what my concern is, what I told these providers, I said, it'd be great if I could go to the public and say, 100% of the homes in Du Bois County, if they want it, they'll have fiber to their homes. They can't promise that because it doesn't cover 100% of it, but what I can say is there's gonna be about 5,000 to 6,000 more people served, homes served with this and this other Oprah money or the next level broadband. There's at least another 1,000 that are served by that, so we're getting closer to 100%.
Now, the list you gave me, or that you sent me, I assume, like I said, I assume that came as a result of registry. Remember the last time?
No, that's a different thing.
That's a different thing than what, okay, because I'm on that list.
Oh, your address was on the list?
Yes, I'm one of the addresses on the list. So I don't know how that happened.
So what they were doing previously, when they would have open this up for an internet service provider to provide service to an area, they were using census blocks. So they would say, this odd shape covers the census block, and if you're bidding, you're saying you will provide a minimum of 25 up or download, 3 mega upload speeds, or 100 down, whatever the speeds are that the agreement said. Now what they're doing is they're taking it more micro, and they're saying, what addresses will you serve that aren't served by any of these other programs? And that's where that is. So I just sent you one of the 3. So in that case, it's Charter Communications who's putting their bid out there. And so I sent you one list. I don't know how many are on it, but they also had 2 other ones that they're bidding on serving as well.
Okay.
So we're getting closer to 100% saturation with every one of these programs. So will I say that 100% of people that want it will get it? I can't say that, but I'd say we're getting closer through all of these programs. A lot of money can be thrown at it. But so back to this agreement. I want to get this agreement done. I think there's public support for it. And there's good news coming. So we started at the 4.35 million. We had this meeting on Monday, and I think we can get that down to about $2.5 million to get this done. I think after I hate to call it negotiations, but after kind of working through some of the details, I think that's about the number we're going to fall on for those 5,000 to 6,000 homes. So that's a considerable savings, and I would hold, or I guess what I would say with that is, we still can choose to put additional money into it for that next level funding, the one that they're doing in January. Like Spectrum, for example, the way that the bid will go in is they will say, we will invest $4 million to serve whatever those homes on that list, if the state will put in $4 million to match us. And they said, the county can help them and help their application by giving a letter of support. That would be one way. Or we could say, the county will pay $100,000 towards the projects. That's $100,000 that the state doesn't have to put in, and it helps with their scoring. So we can still make additional investments in broadband if we choose to, but at this point, for what we've discussed so far, we could do it for about $2.5 million, I believe. So that's pretty exciting to me that the same things that we just talked about a week ago that we were considering paying that much for, we can now do it for less. And here's some of what we came up with. It says this is what we came up with. The investment in Make Ready would give Du Bois County a jump start in obtaining high-speed broadband for our county of rural residents. Without our investment, our county will be in as long as 5 to 7 year time frame for achieving the same kind of result. As a normally forward-looking county, we can ill afford to let this opportunity pass us by. Our continued economic success and growth in the next few years is hinging on broadband availability. This should be a very exciting time for all of us. Dedication of human and material resources are critical in moving this forward, and broadband companies are continually facing manpower shortages, wage increases, and inflation on these required materials. So I guess what I'm saying is our investment will go further this year than it would next year, even because there's so much money being put at it. Fiber materials, fiber labor is going to be stretched, and I think there's only one way that this will go, and it'll be more expensive in the future. I support moving forward with this, and I think Du Bois REC is in favor, is fine with it. I think the Orange County Fiber people are good with it. I think PSC is all on board for this. So I guess I'm prepared to continue working on a contract to get this formalized.
The big question, and I know that we talked about this before, the big question is, what guarantee do we have that Orange County Fiber and PSC are gonna follow Du Bois REC as they prepare the poles, as they prepare the infrastructure? What guarantee do we have that the fiber is gonna follow?
Both companies have said that they will sign an agreement. They're confident that they can get it done. I know it's a tall order, but they are willing to sign. So I think the way we would approach it, I have to talk with legal about this, but we would have one agreement with Du Bois County REC stating that we will pay up to $2.5 million, we'll say. $2.5 million for make-ready poles within Du Bois County. They will agree to get that done within whatever time frame we say the next 18 months or 20 months, whatever it takes. Because they have to be 3 months ahead of the other guys to get the poles ready. So that would be one agreement. Then we would have another agreement with the providers themselves, and they've said that they're open to those agreements.
Okay.
In other words, they're willing to sign on the line to formalize what they were saying verbally to us.
And do they already have in place, or will they have in place then, who will serve which areas? Orange County and PSC.
Right, so they each have grant dollars allocated to the paths that they're going to do.
So when you say the 2 years, that's fiber to the location, to the home.
Fiber to the home.
In other words, you mentioned 18 months for REC with a 6-month lag then to complete the fiber. In other words, fiber would come, if REC upgrades this line here, fiber will follow. Sure. Reasonable, so some people will get it within 6 months.
Correct.
Some people, but within 2 years, everybody will have it.
Correct. And so, again, I don't know if it was a misunderstanding on my part or if things have changed. I think it's that things have changed. I think originally Orange County Fiber said we're gonna do wireless, high-speed wireless. You know, so that which is a worse product than fiber to the home. So at a meeting a while back, they said, nope, we're gonna take it to every fiber to the home. Everybody on our path, everybody on these roads, we're not skipping people. We're gonna get everybody served. And then at this last meeting, I asked multiple times to make sure I wasn't misunderstanding. PSC is going to do the same thing. They're promising fiber to the home. So PSC, the amount of this that they're doing is a lot smaller. They're say around 700 homes, and Orange County Fiber is doing the remainder under this agreement.
The remainder of what's not covered under the charter and the.
Well, whenever I said that number of 5,000 to 6,000, so PSC will do 700, and the other 5,000 will be with Orange County Fiber. And then yes, over and above that, people are bidding on Spectrum for one person bidding, or Charter for other locations as well.
So when we present this, it sounds to me like everybody in the county will have fiber within 2 years. But we are not guaranteeing those that are being served under Charter or Spectrum or those. Am I right on that?
That's right. But I would be open personally, because my vote would be if those people came to us and needed if we could help their investment speed them up as well by doing more make-readies in other areas, I would think that would be an investment we could consider as well.
And how many people do you think are not? If the whole rural county, what is presently served by Jasper, Honeyburg, Ferdinand, or PSI customers locally, what's left? In other words, how many people are these other Spectrum, Charter, and so forth? How many are they going to be serving?
I don't know that number. I guess I could give you a guess, but I don't. You mean after the January bids are in and after everybody's in? my best guess is just to say I don't think it's very many. Because I mean, like in Boone Township, for example, people are pretty spread out, and that's getting covered. St. Anthony, Celestine, they showed me maps, and a lot of that stuff is getting served. I mean, so there's not much left of the county that isn't. But to tell you it's 100 homes or 600 homes, I don't know that exact number. But what I think of when I think about those 100 to 600,000 homes, that's where that most recent Okra last mile thing, I think, could come in and put a bow on the whole county. I think that's kind of the purpose of that money.
5,000, how many homes are there in the county?
14,000 or something? I think there might be.
Outside the municipalities?
Total. For some reason, that's in my mind of how many homes there are.
So you're saying that this 2.5 million would get 5,000 or 5,700 or whatever you said served within 2 years, but there's still another 8,000 or 9,000 out there that are being served in another way, and I don't know whether that's going to happen in 2 years or not.
But what I'm saying is those 14,000 homes, a lot of those are already served in Jasper.
Well, that's what I said, outside the municipality.
Oh, outside of the municipality, I don't know that.
Outside the municipality, it's not more, you're saying 14,000 total.
I don't remember, is it 14 or 16,000 homes, and then there's, the apartments and things are different.
So 5.
Just off the top of my head, I'd say that might be as many home sites as we have, it's hard
And
to remember that number.
and half of those are in already served areas.
Right, a lot of people are already served.
Yeah.
Well,
So now we're down to like 7,000 that are out in the rural areas.
and if this takes 5,700 and this next,
We're getting close.
we're getting close,
We're getting close.
because these providers they don't necessarily care what's left, their focus is on who they are going to serve. And that number just keeps getting smaller.
Yeah.
Can you support $2.5 million for this make-ready portion of the project?
I think so. When we talked about the 4.5 million a couple of weeks ago, I was hesitant because that's a big portion of our ARPA money. 4.5 million. 2.5 is still a big portion, but it's a big benefit. It's
No,
a
cut
big,
it down to 2.5, that's excellent.
it's a big benefit. Now,
We didn't have any heated conversations, but we had some thoughtful, deep move. I don't know. I got some education.
you can't do that, why can't you do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've been really good to work with so far, everybody knows.
I had a meeting last week at Indianapolis with County Commissioner Association. We were actually talking about legislative things, and we got to talking about this. And the attorney there for Barnes and Thornburg, not Rick, Jake, said, man, I'd be hesitant to put money I'd be hesitant to put ARPA money into broadband because there's so much money coming down for broadband in the infrastructure packages that are being considered federally. And, but that may be 7 years. That may be the 7 years.
We're trying to accelerate the process, as the need is now. And some people even mentioned, well, what about this thing that it was Elon Musk is going to do these satellites, everybody's going to have it. That technology is very in the beta stages. It's not going to be in Du Bois County in the next 5 or 7 years. So even though technology evolves, I think this is the technology of the next 10 years. Minimum.
Yeah, I'd have to see the contract and see a little bit more, but the concept, I think I could get behind.
So the sooner we get an agreement together, the sooner we can get the project going, but we can't really do it without our attorney. So hopefully he'll start on that next week. Trying to put something together for us to approve formally. that's where we're at with that, but I'm excited to support it. I think we have a good agreement. I'm happy that they worked with us on this. Health program selection, they're supposed to be November 5th, so there's not any updates on that. To the lake property, we talked about that already. I don't think I have anything else today. Do you have anything?
Yeah. Okay, first of all, we had a meeting with the downtown revitalization. The meeting was primarily with law enforcement. The sheriff was there, the chief of police from Jasper was there. And I think basically the bottom line is certainly the sheriff, and I think he was backed up by the police chief, we've got to have parking. We've got to have emergency parking around the square. Yeah, you were there, Brenda, and so they moved from talking about allowing them to park around the inside of the square to let's designate some of these parking places that already exist for emergency. So they were talking about 4, I think they were talking about a couple of them out here, and a couple of them over on West 6th Street. And then the conversation went to, can we gain those parking places back somewhere? So they're talking about perhaps doing something on the corner nodes down here on each intersection, maybe only having 1 instead of 2. And I forget, like out here, we would continue to have the one over by Seaver's, but not this one.
Yeah, where you exit the square, you could add one. Where you enter the square, you have to keep it back.
All right, so we'd have a corner node over here, we wouldn't have one over by Seaver's. What that would mean is that there would only be 1 crosswalk across. So somebody on the sidewalk over by Seaver's, if they want to stay in the crosswalk, would have to walk across 6th Street and then to the courthouse.
What pain, that ain't gonna happen.
It doesn't happen anyway. They don't
Doesn't
have
happen
a crosswalk
anyways.
anyway.
Nope.
You know, so it doesn't matter where you put the crosswalks, they're
But
gonna
didn't
walk.
we talk that would be a safer crosswalk if we only had that one instead of this one? Nobody would do it. But
It would be, exactly. Yes.
Because the monument's not blocking it.
Yes, but
well, and the oncoming traffic.
you're only in 1. Yes, and you're right. It was discussed, but the amount of traffic that utilizes this crosswalk right here is 10 times everybody else's, or all the rest of it. So they would still be crossing right there. So we're better off painting it, designating it, marking it, alerting drivers, that's the crosswalk.
I think this one is the most used, and then the one on the corner over there on Main Street.
Yes.
By the City Hall is probably the second most used one.
Dan's place side or
No, the City Hall side.
City Hall side.
So anyway, that was the discussion, that's where the discussion was left. I don't know, anything else to add to that? No. It made me go to, maybe we need to move the courts, we need to get busy and move the courts out of the courthouse. But that's, we're not there yet, probably.
I'm not excited to take it on.
I know, and I,
Neither is he.
well, I'm gonna say I would, but you and Nick are gonna be around longer than I am, so let's put that.
Yeah, right.
I don't know how we do that, but that's an answer that would solve a lot of problems.
According to some of the people downtown, that would cause a difficulty. Because we're taking
I've
people away.
heard from both ends of the spectrum from downtown merchants as well.
Right, some will say, you're taking traffic away from downtown, and other people saying you're taking the right traffic away from
Exactly.
downtown.
I've heard the second part from more merchants than I have the first part.
I I think the people who think we're taking traffic away from downtown are thinking current downtown, what we've always had downtown. But when you start to look at the plans for the upgrade and what it'll be afterwards, I think some of those people will change their mind. You know, that maybe now the way downtown, you know, when I say now, the way it's going to be after this is all over with, maybe that's not the place to have.
But you know, as a person who walks across that street many times a day, you gotta change the mindset of the people coming around it in the vehicle. Because they don't look at people, they just drive. Or they swerve around you thinking you're in their way.
Or they're looking at the traffic and not.
And they're not looking at you, correct.
My guess is, and it's only a guess, but if they change everything, change all the design, it will slow the traffic down. I think it will, the mindset as you drive around the square will change, from what it is now.
Because you really technically one of those smooth circles around right now, you'll have more turns.
Yeah.
But you're gonna have to slow down.
More turns, more obstacles to deal with. I don't know. So anyway, that's what happened at that meeting. Nothing other than to report on that. Did you get a,
When is their final design or their initial design development where they say, at this point, we know that these are generally what you like and you can make changes? Do they have a date for that?
I haven't heard a date for that yet. I'm sure it's out there, but I have not.
I haven't either, but it's gotta be soon because they're talking about next summer.
They want to make sure they can
When were they wanting to bid? I mean, it's,
this spring.
oh, that's the spring. I thought it was sooner.
Or well, and maybe this early or late winter time, but they want to.
Because I thought at the time they were talking, whatever it was, I don't recall, the bidding was gonna happen. I thought, we're gonna need the design pretty soon to be able to improve it so that they can.
And they got a lot of information, a lot of design done. It's just the final year input. You know, I don't think the design is going to be as strenuous because they have so much done now.
Okay.
But they plan to be under construction, you know, next summer. I mean, they're making plans to move the Strassenfest activities.
Really? All right, what do you got here?
Memorial Hospital, did you get a letter from Memorial Hospital? They're having a listening session or a SWAT session. I looked at it and I thought it might be important for somebody in the county to be involved in, but I can't. I'm out of town that day.
I was gonna say, I went to those the last 3 or 4 years, and you may have gone to some of them too, and.
From the hospital?
Mm-hmm. I've been to them before.
I don't know. The only reason it kind of clicked with me this time is kind of understanding that there's some changes going on there. And that maybe it'll be important for that reason, but I just thought I'd bring it up. I'm out of town, so, that week, so. I think that was it. Got a radio's dinner tonight, and I'm going to up at French Lick, that Japanese consulate is going to be there, so I'll just throw that out. I'm going to do dinner with the Japanese consulate.
Are you hosting them? They could be staying at the house.
Yes, I think it's more or less a meet and greet for them to, you know, meet some of the people in this part of the state, radius, this part of the state. Sure. I think that's it.
Sandy said she didn't have any business.
We're on these calendars.
There's calendars over here if you want one. Soil or a solid waste item. No, I told her I would take them. I'd put them up here for the county council if anybody wanted them. Otherwise, we'll see if people want them. That's all. That's about it there. I guess we'll close the meeting.